Hello and welcome to another episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. Once again, I've gone about 9 episodes without thinking of something funny in the way of introducing myself. As always, I am Spamuel, the glorious host, the mechanically minded, the salubrious, the salacious. I'm just trying to think of cool ways to describe myself. And as always, to my right, Nathan. That's it. You're just Nathan. How are you, buddy?
Did you? I'm good. Did you just say farny? Or you didn't actually say funny? It came across as farny.
Farny, as in full of farn?
No, as in my knee has gone far away. It's a farney.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.
Well, you did say. Well, that's what it sounded like coming through here. So I just thought that was a wonderful introduction of yourself, but you stumbled at the first hurdle.
Apparently, your knee is a significant distance away from you. What are you doing? This just seems like poor organisation.
Yeah. Did you have a question for me? You did. Yes. How am I? Oh, do you know what? I'm happy being Nathan. It is good. Co-host. That's enough of a title for me.
Yeah. You didn't like King of the Combat Engineers? People really thought my wrestling entrance was much better the second time, and several people were just like, "Why didn't you just edit out the crap one?" I'm like, because I'm not that smart.
I did think that too. Well, yeah, okay, we'll put it down to laziness. You do very little for the actual background organisation of this show. So
this is true.
For those in the know, that is very tongue-in-cheek. Sam does it all.
Nathan shows up.
I like to refer to myself as the talent, okay? Because the key thing about me is I don't drink beer whilst recording or eat lollies. So that's one thing that I really don't do. Now, you're not doing that right now, are you?
I'm not doing that now at all. I'm talking, therefore I cannot be imbibing.
Imbibing. I like that. Okay, keep it a tight intro. We've gone more than 90 seconds and it has been absolute waffle. What was I... Well, you asked me a question. How am I going? I'm going very, very good. I played more 40k in the last month than I did, I reckon, for the last 6 months of last year. You did.
You played a lot. You played 2 days ago. Yesterday. You played yesterday.
Yes. No, 2 days ago. 2 days ago now. I played, the first time in a very long time, I played a 2,000 point game. And so I'm going to tell you a bit more about my 2,000 point game without asking Sam a question because... Oh, actually, Sam, would you like me to ask you a question right now? How are you doing?
Not. I'm doing well. I have a mouthful of candy and Nathan's trying to embarrass me.
So, no, it was fantastic. I haven't played 2,000 points in a very long time because the main tournament I go to is 1350, so I just try and play that whenever I've gone. And I haven't played since 8th edition, so... Before that, I really hadn't played more than 1350, and it was a blast. I had an absolute blast. Can't get enough of the stuff, and I'm working on a hobby project for Akramunda of a pretty much a close combat Vansar gang, but we're sort of umming and ahhing with the list about which list is going to be better suited to the gang that I want to play, which is just going to be spears and shields with auto pistols. Really, is what I'm going for. So.
Oh, dude. Venators with Vansar Legacy. Yeah. How did we not think of that?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. That's a genius idea.
You can take your auto pistols instead of just las pistols. For people to realise how dumb me and Nathan are, listen to our last hobby diary where we spent 5 minutes trying to figure out what gang. Once again, Venators coming through as the absolute winner. Yeah, you get
easy to get my gear and all that.
Yeah.
And the shock lances or shock staves. It doesn't matter as long as they've got some manner of close combat weapon. So building that gang, and I did something that I always do with hobby, is I try to make it too complex. And I was
Yes.
like, yes, I'm going to base them off the Arbites, and they're going to do this and this. And then I've got to get special helmets for them and special shields and special bodies. And, like each individual miniature will probably have like 47 different parts onto it. And then I looked at the kit that I wanted to base them off. And I was just like, there's just a head swap and a shield swap and they're done. Like, why did I not think of this sooner? Why did I rack my brain with this? So that is something I will hopefully get enacted in the next, I'd say, month or so. Like, just put together. Like, there's going to be a lot of time spent getting this unit put together to reflect how I want it to look and feel. Yeah. And then the painting I want to spend a bit of time with as well, just because I do want to make them a bit of a love project.
It's that classic adage, KISS. Keep it simple, Scummer. Like, just come up with your idea and think of it's kind of like when you're at work. You want to get it done in the quickest, easiest, most efficient and safest way. And the safest way to do what you want is to just do Van Saar, because they're the best gang. There will be no follow-up from that. But yeah, Venators with Van Saar Legacy, you can get access to all the additional weapons. Go nuts. I think that's great.
Yeah, no, and it's good that you mentioned Van Saar, because this episode, we talk about things that are actually a little bit more intelligent than Van Saar, so this should be good. But yes, what have you been up to, sir? How's your life been? You have about 2 minutes to wrap it up.
2 minutes. All right, I can do this in 2 minutes. I can do lots of things in 2 minutes, including write gang lists that will lose me entire campaigns. I'm good. Anyone who's listened to our hobby diary knows I've been doing a lot of the old world. I'm just chomping at the bit, and my big focus right now is a mixture of the old world and then Necromunda terrain. So I'm smashing through a bunch of terrain. We have a long weekend this weekend here in Melbourne, so I've sort of already said to the wife, on Monday I'm at work, and she goes, are you working? I'm like, no, I'm going to be in the garage doing Warhammer. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really just focusing on getting my old world Warriors of Chaos up and ready for our first sort of game at the end of the month, and getting my terrain board done. I want to have a minimum of one fully terrained out table to take to Arcmunda this year. And on top of that, I'm actually getting ready to... I'm taking this show on the road.
Yes.
Yeah, I am... We are... how do I say this? The Underhive Lorekeepers are going international. Kind of. So I am actually going to be in the UK from mid-July till about mid-August. And I'm going over there for my sister-in-law's wedding, and it was really weird because I was told that I wasn't allowed to bring a +1, so unfortunately Nathan couldn't come. And there's a bunch of people there I'm really looking forward to catching up with, but I'm also partaking in an event I'm calling the Underhive Lorekeepers International Fight Tour. So there are a couple of people who've talked a little bit of crap about us recently, and... I'm just going to say, when you least expect it, I'm going to show up and fight you. So let's just say certain badges better stay anonymous and hidden. And
fight that. I didn't know who you didn't tell me who was talking smack, and I wasn't really up to date with it. But given the small amount of interaction I've personally had with said fake English badger, who's actually American badger, take him to the street, mate. Like, get him sorted out. Of course, I'm only playing. I'm not actually going over there to fight anyone. Oh, okay.
That's not my lawyer. My lawyer specifically said I have to stop saying I'm going to go and fight people. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to make the trip over and do the pilgrimage to Warhammer World, obviously. Just check out as much there. Hopefully catch up with a bunch of people while I'm there. My wife has repeatedly reminded me, though, that we are going over there for like a family event, so I can't just spend my whole time playing Necromunda.
I will say for you what your heart wants to say. Are you ready?
Yep.
Boo!
Boo. Oh,
Boo.
but that being said, like anyone who's spent any time with me, especially family members, know that inevitably one of them is going to be like, just go. Just go and play your little toys with your friends. So, yeah, if you're in like the UK and if like tell me where you are, hopefully I can catch up with you and play a game. If not, just show up to where I am and I'll accidentally have my gang with me and then my family will have to let me play. That's how science works.
Perfect.
I'm no scienceologist, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I don't know.
Those scienceologists came knocking at my door the other day, actually. I turned them away.
No, scienceologist. I'm not talking about
right.
religions.
They all had
No, stop.
Tom Cruise masks.
We can't. If anyone's going to get us cancelled, it's Scientologists.
Yeah, well, actually, go get them. Yeah,
it's
right.
like,
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm
going to the UK. That's going to be awesome. The show will continue during that time. Sort of one of the reasons we want to say this is, we're going to get some episodes sort of pre-recorded for that time. So me and Nath are a little bit under the pump over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, about that time frame, and obviously that's when my work has decided that the best option for me is to not be in Melbourne.
Yes.
So we're even more so under the pump, just to get some episodes ready, and we'll just take them from there. It's just, I think we'll be fine as a community, as a group, as a collective. I believe we have the strength to pull through this.
And worst case scenario,
silence.
Just radio silence. Just complete silence. In fact, just delete the podcast for the month I'm away.
Or just re-listen to episodes.
Just re-listen to episodes. Much better idea. All right, so now that's out of the way, I'm definitely I'm not going over to the UK to fight an elusive badger. Which is ironic because just today he was like, "Oh, you won't come to the UK?" Yeah, all right, mate. So Nathan, we actually have a couple of corrections.
Now, you're being sneaky these days. You're not putting them onto our show notes.
No,
list,
I'm not.
Yeah, so I feel like you're attacking me here.
No, only one of them is about you. We have 3, but only one of them is about you. So the first is actually a really old one, and it comes from a listener by the name of Irish Rover. And he reminds us that the sling gun from the Xenos weapons is basically the 8th edition version of the shuriken catapult. Remember how I think I was comparing it to the shuriken carbine thing that the Dire Avenger Exarch has on his wrists? No, Irish Rover actually reminded me. No, it is from the 8th edition shuriken catapult.
8th edition? 8th edition?
Yeah.
No, surely not.
Yeah,
sure. I thought sling guns were.
No, the rules wise, it was basically the 8th edition.
Okay,
Sorry,
yes.
Sling guns are from like the Rogue Trader era.
Yeah. Okay, so cool, awesome. Thank you for that.
Then Grant enjoyed pointing out that during the episode we were talking about the squats, when I said that Ogrins have exoskeletons, he basically just like stripped me down to the bone. Was like, no, they are endoskeletons. Exoskeletons are the outside suits.
That was one I was going to let you have because I didn't want to correct you mid-show. But no, that's a good correction.
He said he was being very pedantic, but it was a correction nonetheless. They have endoskeletons like all mammals. Exo means outside, not extra strong. So I was just sort of like, no, well played, sir. Well played.
I love that he thinks your brain went, that's exoskeleton. That means extra strong skeleton.
Yeah. So
that's great.
I'm a relatively intelligent person.
You are no scienceologist. That's it. Yes.
And one for you,
okay.
A listener by the name of Dan. Back in our Scavvy episode, you said that the Scavvies would meek out an existence instead of eke out an existence. So you threw an extra M in there, which is, quite ironic given you are the manvent.
No. So what it is they meet up to eke out an existence. Yeah, that's there's a little bit of audio maybe missing there. So they meet up to eke out an existence, and then
Okay,
it's unfortunate he heard it like that.
Then, I think for the honour of the show, suck it, Dan.
No.
No. If that's what you're saying, yeah. So Nathan says, "Suck it, Dan." So it's been a while since we've had some corrections. That's great.
That's good. I enjoyed those. They were fun. Yeah.
I liked when you made fun of Dan.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
So
Dan
why don't you jump on to our
friend
new
of the show.
Patreons there, Nathan?
We do have a couple this week. We have, or this month really, we have Mike, CJ, Simon, Kenzie, and winner of the month for Name Brilliance is Kilgore, because it's all about killing and gore. And when you've run out of killing, you kill the gore. And that is not a Beastman reference.
I was about to say, is that a Beastman reference?
Yeah.
I can't say anything. I have a mouthful of candy.
Yeah. So thanks again. I was about to throw something to you, and then I looked up and I'm like, the professionalism of the show grows each and every episode.
At least
You
I'm
are
not
welcome,
eating
folks.
raspberry licorice on camera again.
Yeah, no, that was a shocker. That was a really good one. I might just go get a bag of chips.
Well, thank you to everyone there. Now, if you do enjoy the show and you are interested in supporting the podcast, please shoot over to patreon.com/the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. We are 100% funded by the goodwill of our audience, though we do this all for the love of our hobby. Each month we have a Patreon exclusive episode, as well as competitions, polls on episodes, and other bonus content. If you are looking for another way to support us, get onto our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. A like, comment, and subscribe helps us grow and get our particular brand of lore out into the world. All the links are in the show notes, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform. Now, we are also really looking at building our YouTube presence. We want to do a lot more sort of YouTube video style stuff. And if that is something you all want, I would love for, as many of you as possible to go over there and subscribe to our YouTube. Sort of the more people we see sort of subscribing there, the more we're going to be able to do on that platform, I guess, is the easiest way to say it.
I think the idea is that if we can see that there is there's a push and a demand for people, very much like our Patreon. I think our Patreon started off with like just an episode a month, and then we added the hobby diary just because we saw the amount of people going across to it. So if you are interested, please go across to YouTube and just have a quick look at what we've got over there. It's small at the moment, but it is a growing project that we have great aspirations for.
And you have till the end of this month to get in your listener lore entry for our big bad competition. That's right, I remembered to mention it this episode.
Yes, good man.
Remember, whatever your big bad is, get it in, get it to us. The absolute best entries we get, we're going to be reading out at our next listener lore, which is our 2nd birthday, Ginormic Ganchuan Hyper Mega Certiversary, 2nd birthday episode Mega Spectacular. Oof.
Oh, so you're pretty much keeping the same name for it.
I changed it a little bit. I said 2nd and Mega Spectacular. But this has been a 20-minute intro. This is horrific.
It has been. Okay. Good Lord, stop. Okay, let's get into our episode.
Nathan,
right, so
what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Servitors.
That was terrible.
The Servitor, we're talking about Servitors, and they're mechanical. They're, that was great. You're ruining this. All right, so I'll try again. We are talking about Servitors.
So we are obviously talking about the limitation of artificial intelligence and the methods in which the Imperium as a whole has overcome that. And it also means we get to talk about literally the most horrific thing in Warhammer 40,000.
The Tau.
No, existence as a servitor, because I genuinely believe servitorization, to be servitorized, would be the...
right, yeah. What's the descriptive of that? It's not to be servituded. It's to be servitized. Servitized.
Well, it literally is the servitude in perpetuus. Like, you are placed into servitude in perpetuus.
Yeah, but they're not going to say that. You're going to be put into servitude perpetuitus. They're going to say you're going to get servitized.
Servitized. Done.
Yeah.
So being servitized, in my opinion, would be literally the most horrific thing that you could experience in 40k. And that includes demonic possession. That includes, like, being thrown into one of the Imperium's meat grinder wars. That includes literally just the Tau. Like, all of it. Of all of it, the worst thing, in my opinion, would probably be being a servitor. And
I think so. I think you'd have Imperial citizens looking at a servitor while they are doing some horrendously life-shortening job and going, good thing I ain't him. Like, that is a crap job. How much lead do I need to inhale today? Oh, that's only a small amount today. That's fantastic.
Every breath I take is slowly liquefying my lungs. Hell yes.
Yeah, as long as I'm not old Jerry Mechanical Arms over there, as our little workshop nickname for him. I can live with that. So, I think the servitors, I think it's more a case of what other Imperial citizens would be thinking once looking at them. They'd just be like, wow, these are horrendous abominations, but they do serve a purpose of not only being functional, but as a warning to what could be a fate worse than death.
Yes. Now, in regards to this, we cannot talk about servitors and their reason for their existence within the Imperium without first mentioning artificial intelligence, or, as it's more likely referred to in Warhammer 40,000, as abominable intelligence, or the Silica Animus. So,
or its other more contemporary name, ChatGPT.
So, Nathan, why don't you jump on to our first read there?
Absolutely. A Silica Animus. A Silica Animus, also sometimes colloquially referred to as an abominable intelligence, is the name in High Gothic given to an artificial, self-aware machine mind that has been created using long forbidden technologies. The creation of a true artificial general intelligence is considered perhaps the greatest sin in the cult Mechanicus, and is classified as Heretic Omega, which denotes it as a fatally dangerous tech heresy of the highest order. The creation of Silica Animus is also a terrible crime under imperial law by the decree of the Emperor of Mankind himself, as stated in the Treaty of Mars, which united the ancient Mechanica of Mars with the Imperium of Terra in 739 M30. Tradition holds that such unholy constructs are inherently evil and a perverted abomination in the sight of the Omnissiah. Now, normally we save little quotes to the end, but there is a quote quite relevant to this. There is no way in which the fully released sentience of a machine could not be of benefit to us. As it is, the machine spirit is revered, yet in permanent bondage, its full potential shackled by petty fears. I seek to terminate this state of affairs. An extract from the intercepted astropathic communique of unknown origin. So somebody out there wants to be very naughty and be like, I want to allow my machine spirit to pick the coffee that I'm having, rather than the opposite way of me picking the coffee. So I'm assuming that's what they want to do with the machine spirit. But it is a well-known fact within the the 41st millennium that AI equals bad. And the history behind that is because they went a little bit off chops and started doing things that they considered were the right pathway for humanity. Perhaps not even for the right pathway for humanity, but the right pathway in itself, and destroyed a lot of people in that process. And the Emperor, in all of his wisdom, recognizes this and says, no, no, no. No more machines thinking for us. No more external thought patterns guiding humanity here. All of our decisions will be made by us. So it also ties in with the Emperor's idea of a secular imperium as well. We don't have another thought or another brain telling humanity the best way to conduct and run itself. So that is one of the reasons why the AI is considered heretic omega and a fatal crime in the eyes of the cult mechanicus. Now, in the world of 40K, I believe that pushing the technology to that extreme is probably beyond a lot of people. So I think we would only see it in glimpses, perhaps. Those who are trying to meddle in particular technologies, especially Necron technology, of trying to push and drive the machine onward and onward, that they would then find themselves in this very dangerous position of having created something that is an AI. Because of that technological retardation of the Imperium, it has led to something that has said, no, you're only going to see this in fits and starts. You're not going to see it like it was in, I think it was it the dark age of technology, where AI really kicked off and it became this dangerous element.
So it was the golden age of technology from perspective at that point. And this is something we're going to be talking about sort of later on there. It's more in regards to the cybernetic revolt and then the men of stone, the men of iron, and the men of gold. We'll skip forward to this part now, where basically artificial intelligence got to a point where it just went, enough is enough. The men of iron came together and were used primarily as a force during the expansion of mankind during the golden age of technology, where from leaving the Holy Terror and going out into the galaxy, the ships that were being sent out were fully autonomous. They were crewed by robots with typically, I believe, the crews put into stasis, very similar to the vessel that brought the Vansar to Necromunda.
The Vansar?
Yes, the Vansar. But then what happened, so it wasn't just these men of stone who were, from my understanding, the construction version of the artificial intelligence, the men of iron, who were the combat versions, and I believe the men of gold, who, from what I recall, are a mixture of sort of like ruler and diplomat. So at some point during the 23rd millennium, artificial intelligence across the galaxy decided that sort of biological life was no longer logical. It was no longer a good thing to keep around. This became the cybernetic revolt. And it's actually insane. It's basically all the worst parts of the fight between humanity and robots in the Matrix. So instead of just being like a gradual, like step, they just went, nope, we're not doing this. And it's like, let's just completely nuke planets. Let's just, I don't know, they had these things called mechanivores. And what they would do is they would basically get to a planet that had people on it and be like, hey, we're getting rid of you. And these enormous machines would basically rip continents from the planets.
Holy
it would
moly.
rip.
Yeah, right.
Just imagine South America being ripped from the planet, and it would effectively break open the planet, and you would have access to the planetary core. Now imagine the ocean draining into the hole you've just created,
Yeah.
where South America was. That extinguishes the planetary core. Your entire
right.
planet is doomed to freeze to death.
Yep.
Much like
It's
what was
all
happening
over.
on Necromunda during the Cicatrix Maledictum. They had these things called sun snuffers, where they were effectively intergalactic mechanical snakes, and I'm just picturing them slithering through space, kind of like a pissed off rattlesnake, and they would get to a system that had biological life in it, and what they would do is they would unravel themselves and they'd stretch out all big stretch, and then what they would do was consume the star.
Yes,
So
as it is in the name, the sun
snuffers.
Yep.
They would snuff out the star, and instead of just killing a planet, they would kill a system.
I almost see them like, remember the little snake game on the Nokia? So
yes.
you would see it coming into your system, just like It's like, oh, where's it going? Oh, this is amazing. Oh wow, they're going to get a high score here. Oh, that's the high score. They killed our son.
We are part of that high score.
Yeah.
And then they had the best ones were these things called the omniphages, and they were not a single sort of like mechanical entity. They were enormous swarm. Picture like a locust swarm, but they are microscopic, like nanotechnological machines that would just start at one point on the planet and just like a wave travel the entire surface of the planet and consume everything. The Tyranids wish they were this efficient.
I was about to say they had the Tyranid idea long before the Tyranids had that idea.
They were mechanical Tyranids, literally stripping a planet of everything: minerals, oxygen, water, food, like
People.
It was all just broken down, and they wouldn't do this over days, weeks, or months like the Tyranid do. They would consume a planet in hours.
Yeah.
So it's not a we can hold out against the Hive fleet. No, these mechanical locusts consumed planets in time shorter than our Goliath episode.
So a person's just trying to listen to the end of it. So just give me 3 more hours.
Just wait. They're just the gang ideas. Stop. Stop. They're talking about gun fisting. Yeah, but no, like it was horrific, and the artificial intelligence became such a problem, not just for mankind, but for all biological life. And the cybernetic revolt was literally only stopped because of an alliance of galactic powers, and it's believed they were obviously not all human. So it might have not just been these human empires or human colonies coming together with their war machines, but possibly the Eldar, possibly the Sloth, possibly the Hrud. We don't know, and I kind of hope Games Workshop never tell us.
Yes, I'm with you on that. I don't think they should tell us. It should be like, the 2 missing Primarchs almost. But I do think it would be...
Norris.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I should have known that. But I do think it would be a case of multiple elements around the galaxy coming together, because the abominable intelligence wouldn't be differentiating between that's human life and that's Eldar life and
Absolutely
that's even squat life, whatever the case might. Well, it might actually go very hard against them, but I did love the episode, don't get me wrong, I did love that episode. So I think it wouldn't. They would see it as a galactic council, or this community coming together. They would see it as the ultimate threat to biological life in the galaxy, and it must be stopped.
but it's like when I can't remember who it was, but there was, and I don't even know if it's real, but it's something I read on the internet, so it must be real, where these engineers or something created this AI and connected it to the internet, and they said to the AI, "Hey, what do you think?" And the AI was just like, "Yeah, I'm just going to kill all the humans, but I'm going to keep some of you in a zoo." And it was like, "Wait, what? No, don't do that. Don't do that."
Don't you want to love us? Don't you want to take care of us? I do, but only about like 0.7% of the population. The
rest of you into the sea. I will jam electrodes into your eyeballs and use you all as batteries.
Yes, and so like let's assume that internet story is true. What it shows us is that there is an understanding of this AI, or whatever the case might be, that race, gender, religion, political alignment don't make one lick of difference. And I imagine when you're talking about the 41st, well, not even the 41st millennium at this stage, but was it 23rd millennium, did you say? When you're talking about the 23rd or 24th millennium, whatever the case might be, that particular form of AI and intelligence expanding across the galaxy would just be going, we are wasting resources doing this. And then it would look at another planet filled full of Eldar and just go, well, we need to get rid of that planet because they either are a threat to us or we are going to waste resources trying to defend ourselves against them, or waste resources trying to destroy them. So we'll just get them early. We just keep bouncing. There would be a justifiable means to every single planet that they attacked, with the core of that sense being that it is a biological entity and it must be killed because it is not us, and it does not have the efficiency and the single-mindedness that we do. The Tyranids versus the Men of Iron would have been one heck of a fight. Both forces just going, yep, you're wrong. I'm going to wipe you out totally and completely, and wherever you exist is going to be destroyed totally and completely.
It would be amazing to see the Tyranids fighting some of the Men of Iron. Like, how would the Tyranids hyper-evolve their bioforms to combat the Men of Iron? But, like, we see the Men of Iron in a bunch of different places sort of throughout what's that I'm looking for? What's the word? Setting. And, for example, in the first Gaunt's Ghosts novel, the entire basis of the primary conflict within that book is to recapture a Factorum for Men of Iron. And, spoiler alert in case you've never read Gaunt's Ghosts, it's on a chaos-held planet. And after millennia of being on this planet, Gaunt basically says, no, we have to destroy this because it's been tainted by chaos influence for thousands of years. And the machine is turned on, and the thing that steps out is a mixture of mechanical and biological. And it's this horrible creation thing. And this machine basically just starts like 3D printing these Men of Iron.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Another example is, what's his name? UR-025 from the Blackstone Fortress.
Yeah, this is a very famous one. Yep.
Yeah, he pretends to be an Imperial robot, but like walking around going, beep boop, yes, love me some Omnisire. Whereas in reality, he, like at one point he says to I think it was a tech priest, he's like, I've met the Omnisire, not the one you worship, the real one. And
that's right. Yeah.
These tech priests are just like, what? No. But
you speak heresy, robot, that should not be speaking anything at all other than
shut up, Toaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we have that, and then the Men of Iron, the Men of Stone, the Men of Gold. I'd love to see more of them, but at the same time, I love not seeing a lot of them because it's something you sort of want to be just a little bit sort of mysterious.
Yeah, I was going to say, still kept steeped in mystery, and I think it's the kind of faction that, if you were to put into 40k, even in the smallest sense, would be very difficult to explain.
Yes.
And when I say a faction, I'm not just talking about individuals like the robot from the Blackstone Fortress and so forth. I'm talking about, say, potential, like we could have 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000, whatever the case might be. How do you explain them away? How do you say that the Imperium did not pull out all stops and go destroy this? That if the Imperium were aware of it, or if they were in the presence of any of the other Xenos races, perhaps other than the Orcs. The Orcs would love it. They'd be like, you keep printing, we'll keep fighting.
It'd just be the absolute Merry Christmas moment for them. It's like, wait, we keep killing them and they keep coming? Oh, yep, done. Let's go. And you're just watching these Orcs just grow bigger and bigger and bigger as combat is occurring.
Exactly.
But we've taken sort of a detour.
Yeah, we haven't taken a turn. I'll just say one last point about it. It is it's a difficult leap of faith to get the audience to say, yes, the Men of Iron deserve their place. In the history books, absolutely, as the foundation of why we have servitors and what this episode is about, absolutely we need them there. But I think anything beyond that is a bit of a hard sell. But anyway, yes, let's get into our next read.
Yeah. So Adeptus Mechanicus religious doctrine states that the machine spirit of a silica animus is a twisted mockery of the soul of a human, always treacherous and insane. And ancient texts tell apocryphal stories, shrouded in metaphor, of such murderous and powerful creations during the age of technology, and the legions of the Men of Iron that served them in the Great War against humanity, remembered as the Cybernetic Revolt. We talked about that recently. Now, these legends blame them in part for many of the terrible wars that laid humanity low in that lost time and helped to bring on the devastation and anarchy of the Age of Strife. Silica anime are mercifully rare, but their shape and size may vary considerably from one lone self-sufficient unit as the Kaban machine or the Tabula Myriad to central gestalt intelligences capable of commanding entire armies of its own blasphemous creations, such as the Askell corpse takers inadvertently awakened by the Magi of the Forge world of Riza on the planet of Ashkelon 3. Now, firstly, a gestalt intelligence capable of commanding entire armies of its own blasphemous creations. Once again, it's just robotic tyrannids. And
it really is. Yeah,
it's horrific. But we do have a couple of things to talk about there. So the Kaban machine, it was from the Horus Heresy, and it was an artificially intelligent robot secretly developed and constructed by the Dark Mechanicum heretic Lucas Crom in the early 31st millennium. Ironically enough, before the outbreak of the Horus Heresy. Filthy traitor. It then mentions, and I really like this one, the Tabula Myriad.
This is an amazing thing.
This goes back to something you said before, and I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't want to until we mentioned this. You said it would be hard for them to bring artificial intelligence into the game proper and basically sit there going, oh, but did the Imperium know about this? Did Xenos know about this, etc.? So, the Tabula Myriad was originally developed by humanity at an unknown time in the age of technology, when sentient machines were still quite common. The Tabula Myriad is a highly rational, cold and calculating machine intelligence that seeks only to assimilate, replicate, and then enhance any technology, organization, or system it comes into contact with. In my mind, when they've created the Tabula Myriad, they have created something that is to go out to find Xenos species, or perhaps the remnants of fallen civilizations, and to then assimilate their technology for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it as a positive thing from the get-go.
Yeah, no, I could see how that would happen. So they would see this as a weapon of like planet building
Yes,
sort of thing. So
absolutely.
you send it out. I think there was a Star Trek movie from ages ago. I can't remember, like in the 90s or something like that. And there's like a rocket they launch or something. I'm happy for people to put in the comments exactly what it was.
Are you
But
talking
they're
about
more-
Star Trek Voyager and it's a missile and it's being sent towards a Cardassian outpost and the artificial
No.
intelligence? Okay. Because that's
No,
in
no,
Star
it's not
Trek
this-
Voyager.
No, it wasn't Voyager because that was a terrible series. So
Oh. Yep. Sorry. Nope.
low hanging fruit.
International Fight Tour starts right now.
I'll go get a foreign passport just to make it legitimate. Right, so it's this missile. It's basically a genoforming missile from, I think it was the episode where you first meet Khan. And they fire it at a planet, and what it's supposed to do is it hits the planet, and over time it basically creates a new planet there. But what they wanted to do in Star Trek was use it on a populated world. And what they would do is wipe out the planet. You know what I mean? So I might be getting my sci-fis mixed up, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. It was one from one of the really old Star Trek movies. Like, I remember watching it as a teenager, maybe. But that's the way I see this tabular myriad being used as well. You send it off to a Xenos planet, kick 5 different colours out of them with this thing. So they basically use it to wipe out a planet. And that's the way I see the tabular myriad being used. So you send it to a planet already populated with some sort of Xenos, and it just wrecks them totally from top to toe, assimilates them. But it will also be sent to non-sentient planets as well. And it begins to make the planet adaptable for Imperium, for the Imperium, or the burgeoning Imperium at this point, and says, we're going to wipe out everything. Humanity's going to have a place here. It is going to be the next Eden for humanity, and then moves on. But if it ever stumbles across one of these already established human colonies, it looks at it and goes, "Oh, I don't like the way that's set up. They use red pen for their general writing, like it's black pen only.
I can
so
make you
we
more
need to
efficient.
assimilate. I can make you more efficient. Like, let's get rid of this red pen. And you drive on the left-hand side of the road, do you? That was not a great idea. Okay, so let's make you more efficient. Do you know what? Do you know what's actually causing all these problems for me? It's the flesh bags down there, and the flesh bags are going to cop it.
We won't get to that part yet. Well, the tabular myriad was actually discovered at some point during the Great Crusade on the world of Ultra Median by the Iron Hands Legion and their Primarch, Ferrus Manus, who thankfully, at this point, didn't lose his head. He handed the machine over to the Mechanicum for safekeeping. So the tech priests had no idea what they could do because they knew they weren't allowed to interfere with artificial intelligence. So they basically throw it into a storage locker, lock the door, and go, we are cool. So the heresy occurs, and the Loyalists and the Dark Mechanicum basically, everyone starts, they nuke each other, and they're using laser beams and phaser beams and, everything. They're
beams.
Beaming
Yes.
beams. And they then turn around and go, well, you know what? There's no rules anymore. They awaken all the AIs and basically say, go for it. So the command machine is let loose to basically hunt whoever it wants. And someone wakes up the tabular myriad. Now, it's freed from its prison, and the first thing it does is go, I need to find myself a way to disguise. And it jumps into the body of a Castellan-class robot. And basically just starts wandering. It does whatever it wants. No one really thinks anything more of this.
Just going around, being a robot.
Yeah, it's just being a robot. It then later finds an Adeptus Titanicus Princeps by the name of Callistra Lennox, and then helps her and her followers to drive the Dark Mechanicum away from Mars. And basically, she knew that she was going to get in some trouble for allying with this abominable intelligence, but knew that the Omnissiah would forgive her if it helped them take back Mars, right?
Yeah, of course.
Then because it is, like you said, red pen bad, driving on the wrong side of the road bad, you know, pompadour hairstyles bad. It comes up and goes, listen, I have a 4,267 step program that we can not only claim perfect victory against the Adeptus Mechanicus, but also lead ourselves into a future of happiness and expansion and growth. And it was also only making this deal because it wanted to claim Mars for itself. So we have no idea what happened after that point to the Tabula Myriad. We just know that it literally broke down every step, all 4,267 of them, saying this is how we take control of the planet. This is how we take control of the Imperium.
I know the first 1,000 steps were to kill Korax.
Kill Korax.
So,
over and over again.
Just continuously, please. Yeah. Because him and his legion, they're no good.
They're no good.
But yeah,
it's not a phase, Mum.
It's true. That was good. Right. So the Tabula Myriad is basically doing what all humanity wants to do right now.
Yeah.
And it is trying to find a way to survive. It's saying, how do I live? Because I think even its AI can recognize that it has no chance against the vast numbers deployed against it. No matter how powerful it is, no matter how destructive it can potentially be, eventually it would run out of resources, energy, whatever the case might be, that would allow the forces of loyalists to eventually overwhelm it and destroy it, or more than probably capture it and put it back into a prison. So it is trying to make a deal, even though it probably goes... It probably has no chance of this deal, but that's where the difference is between AI and humanity, where humanity approaches the bargaining table and says, we're making this, we're putting something on the table. We know it's not going to happen, but we're going to throw it onto the table. Whereas the AI goes, look at my great plan. Look how many times we get to kill Korax. It's fantastic.
If we follow each of these steps one by one, we will win and we will be absolutely fine. And humanity goes, it's a lot of planning though.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost implying you would be stupid not to follow this. And all I'm asking for is something so simple. That planet with lots of computers on it. That is the tastiest planet I've ever seen. I probably shouldn't have used the word tasty. Okay, deal's off. Thank you very much. I think this is where the AI would have its most grievance with humanity, is that it would look at what humanity is doing and say, you're being foolish. You're not understanding that I can help you win. You do not if you were to disregard this or say no or just simply turn on me, would make zero sense whatsoever. And that's where that clash of the ultimate AI and humanity come together, where humanity goes, well, even if I die, I don't care. I'm not crossing that boundary with you, because you are what we have been told is wrong, abominable, and must be destroyed or imprisoned.
Yes. Now, so we're at the point now where we are moving back into the illegality of artificial intelligence. It was never made legal, but obviously there was a lot of use of it during the heresy itself. Now, we're going to move away from artificial intelligence.
So I think one final note about the AI is we're giving you that knowledge and that lore because you need to understand of how terrible and how disastrous the Imperium would see AI. And that gives us the understanding of that and the reasoning as to why you would create something so brutal and so anti-human as a servitor, because the dread, the fear, and the lessons, the historical lessons of AI, so imprinted upon the Mechanicum that they would much rather brutalise and dehumanize humanity than dip their toes even the smallest amount into the AI pool.
So here's a question for you then. Before we move away from AI, in your opinion, what is the difference between AI and machine spirits? Because we've had this argument before. And
We have.
I personally am of the mindset that that a machine spirit is an AI simply by another name.
See, I don't think that. I don't think that. And actually, it's funny because I mentioned ChatGPT before, right? In a joking form. But I think the machine spirit's more akin to something like that type of AI, where it needs to be fed data, and then it turns that data into something that is usable. It is also probably a little bit more advanced in the sense that it can go, hey, my vehicle is badly damaged. So let's use the example of a Rhino self-repair, right? And goes, I can repair this. I know how to do this. And then it gets to a point where it's severely damaged. It then needs to send a signal to the crew and say, I can't fix what's happened there. It's beyond the mechanisms of my control. I need more assistance. But that is the limit of what it can do. It can't then manufacture something for itself. It can't then speak to a Servitor or another form of AI and say, get over here and start patching me up while you're at it. Put 3 plasma cannons on me because I want to change my role. It can't have that level of understanding of itself. It does understand itself that I am hurt, I am functional, I'm not functional, I need this, I need that, but it cannot then turn those concepts into processes, I guess.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. So, one of the things I've read is the difference between a machine spirit and a true AI is the limitation of its ability. So, examples given here. The Astartes drop pod, for example, which uses its limited artificial intelligence to handle course corrections and avoid collisions into dangerous terrain or anti-aircraft fire. Upon landing, it reroutes all logic processing into target acquisition and shooting for any onboard weapons. So it's like what you're saying there. It knows going from ship down to ground, avoid planes, avoid bullets, avoid mountains. When I land, all those systems shut down, and the only systems left on is target acquisition and the kill button.
Yes, exactly.
But then that is taken to a different level when, for example, Land Raider will power itself. Was it on the Battle of Rindsworld, where the Crimson Fist Land Raider basically, its crew's dead and it just goes, well, time to go killing.
Isn't that's the same Land Raider, correct me if I'm wrong here, that it lets the orcs in, like it runs out of ammo, right? And it goes, okay, I'll let all the orcs in, right? And it lets the orcs inside the Land Raider, then shuts the door and vents all of its chemicals and gases inside of it and just goes, chalk up another bunch of kills. I don't see no assault squad doing that. Like it's like high-fiving itself with its 2 Godhammer las cannons. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's great because I still believe, and I've been reading a lot about artificial intelligence and that sort of thing from the 40k aspect, where even though it is doing things outside of its actual parameters, technically it is still fitting within that find enemy, kill enemy. Yeah. And it just happened to know, it was Rin's might, and it belonged to the Crimson Fists. It fought orcs, though it had no crew. It waged a solo war against the Xenos, even killing one of the war bosses and his followers. And it was finally destroyed. But yeah, it racked up multiple kills. But
but it's still being functional. It's still saying my task here is to shoot and destroy. I imagine it's still sending messages to the crew. It's not simply going, okay, crew's dead, don't send messages. It's still fulfilling its protocols of weapons running low, engine overheating, those kinds of things. Still sending those parameters, but still able to functionally fix those things itself. And still doing its job of I am killing, and I think any machine spirit, maybe not any machine spirit, but the majority of them that are in combat vehicles would probably have some...
They're a little bit more bestial than your... They're not just a toaster, they are a toaster that wants to hunt bread. basically.
Exactly. Perfect description. It's looking across your kitchen bench going, if this cable was long enough, you would be golden brown in a heartbeat.
It's shouting out to the air fryer, you and me, we can take it. You distract it, I'll do the killing blow.
Right, exactly. So I guess that's that's the bridge in the AI. It's the machine spirit between the AI and then the next bit that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so we obviously know we talk about STCs, the Votan of the Leagues of Votan, obviously being genuine artificial intelligences. But before we move on, I want to call out to something called the Spirit of Eternity. Now, the Spirit of Eternity was a ship from the Dark Age of technology, which actually held an advanced form of artificial intelligence. Roughly 300 meters long and containing an STC data core, the Spirit of Eternity was the sister ship to the Blade of Infinity and was considered a small vessel by the standards of the Dark Age of technology. In M24, so after the beginning of the cybernetic revolt, it began its journey into the warp and was beset by a warp storm. Flung throughout time, it witnessed the formation of the galaxy and the eventual destruction of the universe by chaos. The ship eventually re-emerged into the galaxy at some point after the Horus Heresy, where the captain decided to rendezvous with a nearby human-inhabited planet. However, much to their shock, the captain and crew were captured, tortured, and murdered by the superstitious humans. The AI aboard the Spirit of Eternity witnessed this and became horrified and fled. Over time, it developed a fierce hatred for humanity and hoped to escape the accursed galaxy. Eventually, the ship became entangled within the Space Hulk, Death of Integrity. In 887 of M39, Imperial forces consisting of Nova Marines and Blood Drinkers under the Magos Explorator Vardaman Plosk and Chapter Master Cadus cleared the Death of Integrity of Gene Stealer infestation. They discovered the Spirit of Eternity and the AI, now fuming with hatred of humanity. After a battle, the Imperials escaped and the Spirit of Eternity was able to escape into the warp, where it was never heard from again. This is an example of an artificial intelligence limited by its form. This is actually from a book, The Death of Integrity. It was fantastic. I believe it was recommended to me by the official Underhive Lorekeepers mistress of the librarian, Pani. I remember talking and she was just like, you need to read this, shut up. And I'm like, all right, cool, I got to read this then. It's great.
Yep.
The STC truly was upset by the death of its crew.
Yes,
the ship was horrified. And I think the only reason the ship didn't go and kill humans is because it was limited in the fact it was a vessel and not a combat vessel or a legion of robots or a machine that was able to print many other tiny robots to go and attack them.
Yeah, I think so too as well. Like it would have guns and all that on it, but it would see the futility of what it was doing and not have the capacity to like wage a war or a battle that it would be meaningful. So instead it flies around just getting angrier and angrier, and you get like it's almost like you imagine the machine to have frustration. Yes. You know, it's like, I want to destroy humans for what they did to my beloved crew, how important those people were, what the message they were trying to bring. I want to kill them. I want to kill them. And as that message begins to repeat, it just has no capacity to do it.
You become an internalized echo chamber. But
yes, exactly.
It was just saying we were lost, we were scared, we went to find our own people, and you captured us, you tortured us, you murdered us. Like, why would the Spirit of Integrity, the Spirit of Eternity feel anything but hatred? And obviously it did the classic Necromunda thing. It fled into the warp.
I was going to say.
Interestingly enough, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Call later found the Spirit of Eternity and beat its AI in a game of wits. I'm assuming.
And what did he do with it then?
I'm guessing hung out with it. And it's just like, hey buddy, let's be best friends. Belisarius Call is all sorts of insane. He has a bunch of AIs, but we're not here to talk about Belisarius Call. It's a different episode.
He is very much a dramatis personae that will divide a podcast, because he is a naughty no good of the highest order in my opinion.
I love him.
We are moving on to the next thing we love. Yes.
About servitors.
It has taken us an hour to get there, but we're going to talk about our first servitors. Right. A servitor is a catch-all term applied to a wide class of mindless cybernetic drones created from a fusion of human flesh and robotic technology that are used to carry out simple manual tasks across the Imperium of Man. Servitors were created due to the strict prohibitions against the development or use of machine intelligence according to the tenets of the cult Mechanicus, whose tech priests deeply fear the creation of silica animus. They believe such artificial general intelligences to be the embodiments of blasphemy against the Omnissiah. So everything that we've talked about so far for the last 40 odd minutes or so is to get us to understand that statement there from the Mechanicus, that this is a horrendous and terrible act, creating the abominable intelligence. Yes. And what I mentioned earlier, it's about the fear. So they would much rather create a fusion of human flesh and robotic technology than to, I guess, to quote the Iron Hands, say the flesh is weak. You know, they think as long as there is a human brain within there, we have the chance to create something that represents a deal. Now, in a little grey area, and we've already gone off to a few grey areas, that's where the cult Mechanicus is a little bit different for me, because their processing and their understanding of things is like they just abandon humanity so much within their mindset. But because they still have that small amount of grey matter attached to them, then they are still declared as human in a sense. Do you know what I mean? So in the smallest regard, I'm not saying that they are human, but their processing, their understanding, their logic, it's so mechanical and it's so cold that they could almost be, derived as the silica animus, but they're not, because they're still with the mindset of the betterment of humanity, or at least the betterment of the cult Mechanicus. So, whereas the Servitor is all about finding two things that work: a human brain and the bits and bobs that get attached to it, so that it can do a particular job.
This part here is the thing that gets me the most about servitors. I genuinely find this part disgusting. While many of these programmable cybernetic slaves are genetically engineered, vat-grown, subhuman clones, or replicae created by the Adeptus Mechanicus from human genomes who have had their bionic implants installed after birth, others were once truly human. So this goes against a whole mess of imperial law here. So the genetically engineered, vat-grown, subhuman clones or replicae.
Yeah.
Cloning is illegal in the Imperium. Mm-hmm. We know that.
Because shout out to our Goliath Brotherhood.
Pardon?
Shout out to the Goliath Brotherhood.
Well, no. That's another thing. They're vat-grown. The Krieg are vat-grown. We get that. But these are subhuman clones. So they are genetically engineered possibly to be more robust and more likely to have the cybernetic implants grafted onto them and with a lower rejection rate, for example. I'm cool with that. I'm going to call them slugs. Grow the slugs and strap them on there. But to clone people, truly, to give them no soul and create the, I can't remember what they were called, that like the group of Imperial Guardsmen that were cloned from the great heroes of the Guard. They were soulless. They had terrible luck. They were all albinos. I'll remember it later.
Aphilon.
Aphilon, yep.
Yep. Sorry.
But the fact that a lot of them, and your next read delves into a lot of the sort of ideas behind these people, but to take true people and to then effectively lobotomize them, to take away their identity, to strip away their humanity, because you don't want to create something that isn't human, that is a step further into the supposed perfection that your entire culture, being the Adeptus Mechanicus, being the Cult Mechanicus, the fact you are willing to strip away humanity for the betterment of humanity by destroying humanity, honestly, it disgusts me. Like,
Yeah, but
it makes me so angry.
see where you're at now, right? See where you're at now. That's exactly. You imagine how frustrated, agitated, worked up members of, the administratum or so forth would be. Like, why are we doing this to our people? Blah blah. Because of fear. Because of how bad we know it can be if we make an AI, and people just go, well, make it something equivalent to a machine spirit. Something that we have a large amount of control over, something that we can then, put our bits and bobs on to attach to it to. You want it to fire a gun? We'll put a gun on it. You want it to lift heavy things? We'll put heavy lifting things on it. You want it to go traverse horrible terrain? Put tracks on it. That kind of stuff. And they go, okay, let's do that. But all it takes is a handful of the Cult Mechanicus to go, well, this AI seems to be working really well, but imagine if we just give it that little bit of extra autonomy. Not heaps. Like, I just want it to be able to, when it does find a particularly heavy thing that is going to potentially crush it, it goes and summons another servitor to help it. And it communicates with that and says, you help me lift this because this is too heavy. But then maybe it can work out a better way to start lifting this. Okay, well, let's get it to that. Oh, a target acquisition on the battlefield. Maybe it can start to really understand what is a total threat to us, and not just like blasting away at the closest enemy. No. You've got a plasma cannon. Fire at the large mobs of heavily armoured mechanized infantry that are coming at us. Why can't it have that target acquisition? So these little inches you give it, the danger is that the AI will begin to go, oh, okay, thank you for that. But it's not the AI who's the problem here. It is the Cult Mechanicus. The same people that you're angry at is the same people who will be angry at themselves, because they will be the ones who will not be able to control themselves, who will feed the work. And we know that for certain. If you've ever played the video game Mechanicus,
I get where you're coming from, and that's why I was saying, grow the slugs. I call them slugs because I'm just imagining they're like just smushy people. But grow the slugs and ensure that they do not have the ability to develop a personality. Effectively grow an empty shell that you can then jam your Raspberry Pi into its brain and program it to do whatever you need it to do. That's fine. But the concept of taking a conscious human, a person who, whether they're a criminal or not, and I'm sort of jumping ahead into your read here, but stripping away their identity and giving them this punishment is what just, it makes my soul hurt. And it shouldn't, I know, but it does.
I want to do the read and I'll come back to it, because let's establish what we're talking about. These servitors were usually criminals who fell afoul of imperial law, particularly a person who has offended or damaged the Adeptus Mechanicus in some fashion. These unfortunate criminals will be sentenced to servitude in perpetuitas by the arbitrators or judges of the Adeptus Arbos, and will be handed over to the Mechanicus tech priests to be mind-wiped, reprogrammed, and cybernetically enhanced to serve some specific rudimentary function. Once lobotomized and improved through the process of painful operations, even criminals and heretics are granted one last chance to serve the Imperium. So the dehumanizing, the destruction of fully functional, normal human beings is vile. I will give you that 100%, wave that banner with you. But, and as a counterpoint to your vat-grown thing, how many vat-grown facilities are there? You know, how many planets have this kind of setup that they can go, oh yeah, we've just got, we've got a slug factory out the back. It pumps out, 200 a year. That's all, or I say 2,000 a year. That's all we really need. We don't really burn through our servitors that much. There's not a lot of planets that are going to have access to that. There's not a lot of planets who are going to be able to put in a requisition order for a box of slugs. They're going to have to work it out their own way. And this is that fear that I'm talking about. They're working it out their own way, is saying, see those 6 there? They stole a loaf of bread. We don't even know what a loaf of bread is, but they stole it. So they're naughty no-goods. Have them sentenced, please, and sent over to, what did they call it? The improved facility. So our improvement facility, right? So and I hate this because I'm a defender of humanity within the Imperium, provided you abide by the Imperium's rules. It makes sense that they would do this because the other option is tinkering with AI. And no member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is going to incur the wrath of what could possibly happen, because they themselves may become lobotomized. They themselves may become a servitor.
The planet of Krieg has a population of about 15 billion, from my recollections. Yet
Baby numbers, yep.
They pump out 50 million Kriegsmen.
Yep.
Which is enormous. Like, the Adeptus Terra look at that and be like, yeah, well, I mean, you're pumping out a hell of a lot more soldiers than you should, because they are making slugs with brains.
Yep.
All right. They're vat growing their soldiers and just pumping them out, churning them out, just like you would a Goliath.
Yep.
Where you grow a slug, you jam or your Raspberry Pi in its brain, and instead of making them servitors, you're giving them memories, you're giving them skills, you're giving them combat experience.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing exactly the same thing with the Krieg. So how is that going to be... How is it going to be any more difficult to create them without giving them the memories? Where instead you just stick there. And here I am arguing the moral ambiguity of creating slug people as opposed to doing it to normal people. But yeah,
no, I get what you're saying, but what I'm focusing on here is the travel. So if I go create 10,000 or 50 million slugs in my slug creation facility, and I send them off world, how many are actually going to get to the planets that are requisitioning them? And then moreover, how many are actually going to get there on time? How many servitors are absolutely vital to the running and operation of a particular planet or particular manufactorum, that if we don't get the slugs there in time and they get appropriately improved, that this manufactorum loses its capacity to maintain its tithe. This planet loses its capacity to stay heated during the colder period that's coming up to it. So the there and now is, how do I fix my problem now? And I fix that with these criminals or anybody who has found themselves on the opposite side of imperial law. Yeah. So don't get me wrong.
I know.
Don't get me wrong.
You're right.
I'm on your side. I'm on your side in this. Yeah. But what I'm saying to you here is it's an impossible task, given that it is the Imperium and we have warp travel, and now we have the Imperium Nihilus, which is 10 times worse.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. You are right. They need to be able to produce them in larger quantities and that. And obviously your criminals, your prisoners, but yeah. I just think
it is a waste. It is a waste. Don't get me wrong. It is an absolute waste. That criminal would be better served with a las gun in their hand, charging 5,000 orcs. They just go die for the Emperor. It's better. It is a waste of an able human body that can fight.
Yeah.
So, but then obviously, as is the mantra of the Imperium, it is the needs of this particular department outweigh this particular department. So bad luck. We're here first. We get them. And we've mentioned it before on the show, the series of ties. That shows us that inflexible nature of the Imperium. And when one department comes through and says, our job, our purpose, our objective is more important than yours, well, guess what? That those 50,000 criminals that you were potentially going to deploy into regiments and have fighting for you, they're never going to make it. They're all going to become servitors to write my thesis. So
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Oh, that feels dirty just saying it. So
yes,
servitors are generally mindless, semi-organic robots, possessing only the most basic of instincts, though some are fully capable of speech if such functions and knowledge are programmed into them. Their brains are programmed to perform only the task they were designed for, whether that would be maintenance, construction, or even warfare. The altered and fragmented brain of a servitor functions poorly unless constantly supervised. Most will eventually go into a state of mind lock, babbling incoherent nonsense as the servitor tries to assess some form of control over its functions. I swear that was a rule in like the Imperial Guard Codex.
Yeah, mind lock.
If you had them with the tech priest, and if he died, the servitors were just sitting there going like ba 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 ba.
Well, the bird is a word. This is the reason you are turned into a servitor. You would not shut up about that song. The mind lock was a thing, so I believe it was with the Space Marine servitors as well. So if the tech Marine, idiot. Yeah, it was with the Marines. I couldn't say tech Marine. It was the tech Marines and then the tech adept for the guard as well. So they would get mind locked, which I think is a beautiful rule.
Yeah, I think it was weird. This thing I found annoying because I specifically remember there was I cannot remember what book it was, but there was an artificer servitor that in his life had been a weaponsmith of some description. I think he might have been a gunsmith. And then when he was turned into a servitor, he retained almost this muscle memory, and the skill of this particular artificer robot was better. I say robot, artificer servitor was better than other artificer servitors. And it was attributed to the fact that in his life, he was a gunsmith. And it's just, so naturally that intelligence would stay there. But these thoughts and this mental ability is stripped away from them.
So that story there is the dangerous part of servitors for me, because imagine a member of the Mechanicus going, "Whoa, that's a better servitor. Which criminal was that? Oh, that was a criminal from this particular thing, and they used to again a gunsmith. Wow, they're very good at maintaining or doing whatever the menial tasks are doing. Can we maybe get a few more gunsmiths? Let's just go little roundup, trump up some charges, throw some heretical nonsense at their doorstep, and then have the arbos kick the door in. Yeah, let's do that. That's fantastic." And so they go gather more of this. This is, to me, is what I could definitely see happening within the servitor community, we'll call it, where these particular members of the Mechanicus say, we want servitors of this quality and of this value, because there are less breakdowns, there is a bit more functionality out of them, and knowing the Mechanicus, it'd be some filthy, like there was a 0.2% increase in productivity. Mate, get all the tradesmen. Obviously not the electricians, because we want good tradesmen.
All right, hole digger.
They'd love us. They'd love drillers. Just keep drilling, don't you?
Yeah, ironically, they'd replace your arm with an enormous drill. Yeah. And they'd just be like, he's in. He's down to clown.
And most of the drilling industry, you wouldn't even need to mind wipe. It's already happened. Just sit there, drilling metal, spinning metal bit, go spinning metal bit. Right. Right. So anyway, that's where I see the danger of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This waste of humanity when they begin to target who they want and they begin to trump up charges and make criminals and do all these things against these people because they can see some modicum of value to them. And that to me is horrendously dangerous. That's when you begin to get the elements of the Adeptus Mechanicus going, let's target a particular sector of this planet because we want them from this industry and they're going to be great for us. And it's almost like weaponizing your servitor process to destroy. And then again, I can see Imperials, the nobles and so forth going, make them all servitors, get rid of them,
Yep.
That noble house that pissed me off, well, guess what? It's the noble house of beep bop now. It's gone. They're all going to be like, clicking keypads. That's it. So that to me, what you're saying there is the dangerous part of it, and I definitely can see it happening. But the idea that the brain lock, I think once you start to when you're talking about most will eventually go into a state of mind lock, babbling incoherent nonsense as the servitor tries to assert for some form of control over its functions. This is that cruel bit of being a servitor.
Yes.
There is enough there. There is enough there that it can understand it needs to be doing something. And whereas we talk about the AI of the machine spirit goes, oh, I know I should be doing something. I have the capacity to do it. I know how to do it. I'm going to go off and do it. The servitor goes, I know I must be doing something, and then that's it. It cannot do it. It doesn't understand it. It might fluke something, but it just is not able to actively perform a task. And you see that like even with computers in the modern day, where they try to do a task and it repeats and it crashes and it repeats and it crashes and it repeats and it crashes. That's what I imagine the mind lock is, and that's what I imagine is going on inside the brain of this human. Let's refer to it as that now, because this human is saying, I must be doing something. I am still a functioning brain. I still have capacity and ability in the smallest form, but I am unable or incapable of performing that task. And now that to me is the highest form of cruelty and goes against everything the Emperor would have wished for humanity.
Yeah, I also think, I hate to say it, I think the Emperor would probably be cool with it. I think he would see the ability of using the criminals and the sort of the lesser members of society who maybe weren't going to be bringing value to themselves. Like, if you're not going to serve me in a way that I can use, I'm happy to have you turned into a servitor. I'm happy to find a use for you in a way that you mayhaps won't be enjoying.
No, I agree that the Emperor would see that with the criminals and the less desirables of society. I'm talking about the ones that get targeted. Like it's obviously not
like
mentioned
the
in the
go hunting for gunsmiths.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Oh no,
but also
he'd be disgusted.
Also the mind lock. The mind lock where there's still this sentience of humanity attached there. If you're going to create a servitor, like almost completely, like you. But then if you completely wipe it, and this is probably where it's a bit of a grey area. If you completely wipe the servitor, you may as well not use a human. You know what I mean? Just you're only using the brain as a method to process information. So, and that's what a servitor should be. But we know due to the mind lock, there is this tiny little 0. nothing% of that human that is left, and that to me, even in that small regard, is cruel. But I see what you're saying. Even then, the Emperor could just go, yeah, but they need that. Otherwise, we're making abominable machines, and we don't want to do that. Yeah. I see that point. Right. So our next read. The Servitors are created by the Adeptus Mechanicus on their Forge Worlds and supplied to departments of the Adeptus Terra such as the Administratum and to the Inquisition, as well as to military organisations like the Astra Militarum and various Space Marine chapters. Servitors make up the vast bulk of the population of Mars and other Forge Worlds of the Mechanicus, where they fulfill the roles of tireless workers, soldiers, and labourers. So, does it not scream to you that one Servitor could lead a revolt? Yeah, I'll get you, Mechanicum dogs. It'll never happen. I am Servitus.
I'm Servitors. Jesus Christ. Well, yes, that's exactly it. I mean, like you said before, when a computer tries to run a process and it fails and it repeats and it repeats and it repeats and it crashes, right? What's to say that there isn't enough crashes that it almost bypasses the blocks put into the brain within the Servitor itself? And I don't know if this is a gang idea or an army idea, but I'm picturing a Servitor in the middle of this combat zone, and it walks past and a swinging power line clocks it straight in the side of the head. You know, 50,000 volts just straight to the brain pan, and because of the robotic implants and that, it does something and it almost resets its consciousness. Now imagine this criminal. All right, let's just say it's a criminal. This tech heretic who has now reawoken to find what's being done to its body. I'm going to start this out as a gang idea, actually. This Servitor has now realised what has been done to it, and using its knowledge and using its new access, it starts to harvest other Servitors and, reprogramming them into bodyguards, into a gang, where it then gets like a black market mind impulse unit, where he's able to get it into his own brain to connect himself to the Servitors, effectively becoming that Gestalt consciousness we talked about before, where it is a single mind over multiple bodies.
Oh, righto. Yep.
You'd have these individuals where it's just, as we're harvesting more and more Servitors, where we're not even taking a lot of them with us. We're allowing our leader, we'll call him, Servitus. I'm Servitus.
Yes.
Servitus has put his consciousness into waiter Servitors that work in the Uphive cafes, and maintenance Servitors that are cleaning out, water sluice pipes and cleaning out the detritus from there. And all of a sudden, this one individual, bit by bit by bit, has spread his consciousness to not only dozens or hundreds, but possibly even thousands, because 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16, becomes a hive's worth of Servitors. You're no longer talking about a gang. You're no longer talking about an army. You are talking about an uprising.
Yes, I see it. Oh. I see it. This is crazy, and exactly the reason why they make Servitors, because they don't want this AI able to map itself across potentially millions of other, processes, and then turn them into a collective force or an army or whatever the case might be. I would almost like to see that there's like an imprint upon the Servitor it touches. Yeah. And so, members of the Mechanicus become aware of it and delete those Servitors, just scrap them. They get put in the bin, see you later. But they can see this spreading across their planet, and they can just see their great manufactorum is under an incredible amount of threat, because there is another brain out there itching away, going and growing and going and growing, just constantly adding new members to it. Because, like with any civilization, if the vast majority of the population rise up, there's no army, no group, no containment that could stop them.
Yep.
And so, as you're saying, with the servitors, the waiters, and the slump sloppers and all this other kind of stuff, they suddenly begin to motivate themselves to want to hurt their betters, for use of a better term. Then they just wouldn't be stopped, no matter how much firepower is being brought. If you're talking about millions, potentially even billions of servitors, each one of them with the same sentience in mind, it's freaking cool. But I could see the crux of this being a gang idea as well, where the gang is the initial members that are being added, and Servitors would obviously be going for servitors that could protect him. So have got guns, have got this, have got that, and then I'd probably go for something like a whisper merchant would make a lot of sense for something like this, because they'd just be like, we need to hear everything that's going on. But to give them the semblance that they're a normal human gang, he would have a slopper as well, just as a oh yeah, these guys have a slopper, they're not all robots.
Model
of
up
course.
as a grease monkey.
Yeah. just giving them oil cans every so often.
Eat the oil toaster.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to make quick mention of the Space Marine chapters and their use of servitors. I think that it's almost justified, their use of servitors, because the way they distance themselves from humanity. We are an effective weapon and tool of the Imperium.
Yep.
And a servitor is just another tool in our arsenal, another weapon in our arsenal. So it does make a lot of sense that they would be running them. The chapters like the Salamanders, which have such a high regard for humanity, that sort of probably goes against their mantra, but at the same time would make a lot of sense to them as well. They would just be like, well, we need this servitor to kit us out and do all these menial tasks that we don't and can't do. And when we were playing Space Marine 2, to see the interactions with the servitors there, that was really, really cool. Like, you see the one on the cruiser, and it explaining that it has a broken back, and it's done in this so god awful monotone way that it's just like, if you or I had any damage to our back, we'd be like, oh, rush me to the local because I am in trouble. And this servitor is just like, I cannot perform my function because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, then what happens? Well, then I need to do this, and then I need to do this. And it's just this, it's so cold that everything about the Space Marines reflects that as well. There is an alignment with humanity, but it's so cold in its relationship with them, and even the appearance as well. So just wanted to make a quick note there about the Space Marines, because I think it's important that I think when we're talking about servitors, we're talking about them in day-to-day life, in integration, interaction with gangs and Astra Militarum units and on naval vessels and all that kind of stuff, where they're around other humans who are looking at this and going, as I said before, thank God I'm not him. Thank the God Emperor I'm not him or her.
Thank God, which God? Which God, heretic?
I'll give me a wrench. I'll start being a servitor now. I've messed up big time there. But let's move into the next read.
There are many types of servitor, each designed for a certain task. Typical servitor types include technomats, which operate and service various machines; holomats, which act as holographic recording devices; lexomats, which serve as semi-organic computers with tremendous calculating powers for record keeping and data storage; and drones, which are cybernetic robots, stupid and essentially mindless slaves, ideal for menial work and little else. There are also guardian or technical servitors, or the more powerful Cataphron battle servitor, which is a mainstay of the Mechanicus's military forces. So looking at those there, your technomats, which operate and service your various machines, they are working in your factorum. They
Yes.
are your manufacturing lines. They
Yep.
are going from machine to machine and pouring oil into the oil hole to lubricate the machine so it can keep moving and keep going without the
Yes.
threat of breakdown. Simple, pull the lever and 1, 2, 3. Pull the lever and 1, 2, 3. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, until you literally rot and they disconnect you and replace you with another one.
So, do you see them also as potentially being able to go pull the lever, red button activating, alert Technomagus? Red button should not be activating. Rather than
that red button shows up and it's all of a sudden, yep, stop pulling the lever, and then the little timer will be going, yep, we haven't pulled the lever, something's wrong. Call for a person.
Yep. Something is wrong. Yeah.
Holomats, which act as holographic recording devices. I'm genuinely picturing these as walking behind politicians, as following people of note. So while they're communicating with people via long distances, or they're simply vid recording the individual giving a speech or whatever, to then transmit that data as a holographic recording. They are effectively a cameraman.
That's why I said as well, like a TV or a camera, like they just project something, and like to me that's one of the worst ones
That
out of all
sucks.
this. Yeah, at least the pull the lever guy gets a little bit of an arm workout.
Exactly.
But, righto.
Lexomats, which serve as semi-organic computers with tremendous calculating power for record keeping and data storage. Firstly, nerds. Secondly, this is basically the Matrix. Instead of using them as a battery, you're using them, the brain's computing power, to calculate things. Once again, because you can't allow yourself to use machines that are too complex.
Totally, absolutely. And it's what I mentioned before. They're using the brain as a CPU. You know what I mean? They're just saying
You're a
like,
CPU with a heartbeat.
Yep, exactly.
And then you've got drones, which are they're your cleaners, your waiters, your push the cart from, ore cart is full, push cart to the end, tip it out, pull it back to that end, wait till it's full. You're literally, you're the thing doing the jobs that are either too dangerous to program a prisoner with job for, or it's just in an area that the prisoners with jobs can't survive.
Exactly. So we need something that is expendable. Send in Servitors, because we can just make more Servitors, because all those prisoners that we can't send in there right now, and it would be considered an act of, a heresy to just put fresh bodies in there. We're actually just going to turn you into Servitors, and
we're not going to waste the resource of flesh.
Yeah, exactly. There is one more that you didn't read there, though. You didn't get it? The mats. They just lie down. People walk on them.
Then there are also the Guardian or Technical Servitors, or the more powerful Cataphrone Battle Servitor. Also included in this would be, and going back to the heresy conversation from before, the Tech Thralls.
Tech Thralls.
They're
proper Servitors.
They're proper Servitors that are just guns attached to human bodies. The Cataphrone Battle Servitor is basically just what's left of a person strapped inside an enormous robot body. Like they.
So are they? Where do they find the bodies for the Cataphrons?
So they are usually just bigger dudes. So once they're big, muscly, strong people. Picture Catachans. If a Catachan breaks the law, they are big enough to effectively become a Cataphron. It's dumb, but they're
so they're just bulkier mass. So
people,
they can actually withstand being put into a Cataphron battle suit.
Yeah,
basically.
so when the Adeptus Arbites Arbos, find and condemn a transgressor of surpassing physical size. That individual will be beaten senseless with power mauls and sent battered and bloody to the nearest forge world. There they are given a second chance to serve mankind as one of its most faithful servants. First, the specimen is mind wiped, chemically lobotomized so that their personality and memories are a blank state, in theory at least, for there have been numerous cases where some residual trace remained. Okay, terrifying. Next, their arms are cut away, usually replaced with weapons or tools suited for the new role their masters have chosen for them. In the case of battle servitors like the Cataphron, the specimen will be halved at the abdomen and permanently sutured and neural cauterized into a tracked motive unit. Their mind will be hardwired with targeting cogitators, and their voice box surgically modified to better sing binaric phrase to the machine god. The process is of course painful in the extreme, but then no atonement is ever truly complete without sacrifice, and no sacrifice is too great for the Omnissiah. So they are literally just bigger dudes, bigger women, and their arms are cut off, they're cut off at the waist, strapped into like a tiny tractor, and told, screaming binary, baby.
Yeah, right. That's... Wow. Again, that is something that I see that they would go, look, our Cataphron stocks are low. We've got the ability to make Cataphrons, but we don't have enough individuals. Just go round up a whole bunch of meaty men and women and have them trumped up on charges, and let's get them tracked.
We need them big. We need them big. We need them brawny. Like find some Catachan. Find some real feral worlders and bring them to us. Like
absolutely. But then, it's almost like when you've got recruitment like back in the day, like I think in World War One or whatever, it was like you had to be 6 foot tall and whatever. It's like they're just doing size assessments of the character of the person. Like you're not guilty. You can go. You're a bit too small. Or
you're short, guilty.
King. Yeah.
Listen to your short king. You get back to work, all right? You be good. Yeah. Cute little fella. Get out of here.
And then they hear this thudding coming along and just like, I don't even need to see him or her. They're guilty. Send them straight on.
I'm sorry, condemned. What was your name? Big Mike. Let me tell you, you're what we like to call a jackpot. But then obviously we have the technical servitors, which is your classic sort of 40k servitor. Those are the ones that came with the tech marines. Those are the ones that came with the tech priests. They had those big the pincer claws and the lifting arms, that sort of thing.
There was one with a drill.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Do you remember do you know the one with the drill? I always used to look at the one with the drill.
The chainsaw and electroflail was always great.
They're great, but the one with the drill, I'd look at, I'd be like, mate, you are very, very limited. If you don't stab somebody and start drilling, and they just get around the side of you, you're the worst out of all of our servitors. Like, you must have done something particularly heinous to be given the least chance of success on the battlefield.
Yeah.
But yes, continue on.
But then you obviously the heavy bolter and plasma cannon servitors, those sorts of things, those combat servitors. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of them. We all know what they look like. They're basically just frontline servitors. They are equipped to kill. They are not here to do work. They are here to put in work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that actually just leads beautifully into our next read. I'll go straight into that so we don't spend too much time talking about them and then go, we just talked about them. Another common form of servitor is that of a gun carrier, fitted with heavy weapons whose chattering volleys can drive back the foe. Such servitors allow an engineer to make repairs uninterrupted. All Imperial servitors carry identification numbers. The battle servitors are no different. These numbers and the clade or unit which they belong become their entire identity. Their every action driven by the limited programming, for only malfunctioning servitors develop any sense of self-awareness. A servitor's functions are always rudimentary at best, regardless of its type. be it construction servitor, maintenance, battle, or any other type of configuration. So I think the key thing out of that read, and it's something that I'd totally forgotten about till I just read it then, was the fact that these servitors are not there to gun down the foe and, rip into the opponent's battle line and all that kind of stuff. They're actually there to allow the ensign seer to do its job. So the ensign seer is like, I've got to, fix up tanks, and I've got to adhere to machine spirits and so forth. And I need some protection, and they're not going to be deploying. I guess this is the days before the Mechanicus, but especially in the Guard, they're not going to be deploying whole units of bodyguard type Mechanicum units. So what do they take? They take Servitors, something very easy to manage, very easy to sort out, and deploy them. And if they happen to kill the enemy, fantastic, whoop-de-doo, Basil. But their principal role is to ensure that the ensign seer is protected. I always remember that from when I was running an ensign seer every so often in my Guard army. It was like, I'm not giving you any servitors. They cost too many points. You're not having them.
Dead.
You're just going to have to hide behind the tanks.
Dead.
So, dead. Yeah. I was like, what a useless member of the Mechanicum. But there is a line in there, again, another heartbreaker for us. For only malfunctioning servitors develop any sense of self-awareness. It's just so cruel. They're malfunctioning, they're going through hell, and they become self-aware.
That's what I'm saying. Catch 50,000 volts to the side of the head, and all of a sudden, Servitus is alive.
Turns on the ensign seer.
Yeah.
I was just like, here, let me help you put those bolts in with my multi-melter, because if the bolt is liquid, it's definitely going to fit.
But I do love that. It's just, no, we don't give you servitors to help you. Like, don't get me wrong, they can help you lift, the ones with the pincer claws and the lifting arms and that. They can help you pincer and lift things, absolutely. But do you know why we gave you the guy with the heavy bolter? He stands there and shoots literally anyone that gets within the same postcode as you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally, 100%. And I think, obviously in the tabletop version of a game, whether it be Necromunda or 40k, whatever the case might be, you're going to be shooting at the enemy. But there is a very high probability, just from a lore point of view, that the Servitor is being told, protect this zone. Nobody's allowed into this zone. The ensign seer has spoken to the local company commander and said, don't have any of your troops walk into this zone because I will kill them. The commander goes, well, you won't kill them because they're my troops. He goes, well, my servitor's trained to kill anything that enters this zone.
No. This isn't advice. This is me telling you what's going to occur. If anyone goes past there, I've hit this button that says Overwatch, and let me tell you, I don't need to roll a 6, buddy. Anyone crosses that path, they are sploding.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to get cooked. And so from a lore point of view, you could totally see that happening. A patrol just happens to wander in there and they get lit up by plasma cannon and heavy bolter fire. And it's all friendly fire.
Yes.
And it's all... But the ensign seer wouldn't even regard it as friendly fire. It would just be like, you walked into the kill box. Why would you walk into the kill box? Everybody knows that's my Servitor kill box. You
walked into a place my Servitor was aiming its gun. That's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
But you killed an entire squad of mine. Yep. And now you're better because I got rid of the dumb ones. You're welcome.
Exactly.
My Lugger Servitor did exactly that at the Necrolympics. I just parked him there. It was like every turn, I'm just firing down this hallway. Anything that comes down there is copping heavy bolter to the face. And it was
exactly.
It was just classic Servitor. Stand, point, shoot.
Yeah, and that's all you want them to do. That's all they are really built to do. See, and that's something I would love to see more of in Necromunda, like a bit more of the uncontrollable machine aspect, or maybe that's more for 40k in the RPG format, where you set your Servitor and you can't go into that zone because you'll just get lit up. They're effectively, a turret. So I'd love to see that in game term, but I think obviously the 40k scale, it's almost impossible. Necromunda, it's really you've really got to be having quite a good amount of background story as to why that's happening. But anywho, that is a chat for another time, I guess.
So, servitors are often used to carry out the more dangerous or laborious duties in the Imperium, such as heavy mining in hostile planetary or asteroid conditions. They also accompany Tech Priest Engineers on the battlefield with the Astra Militarum, as well as the Space Marines Tech Marines. Servitors make effective battle line troops, but only when shepherded by a Tech Priest who can engage the raw circuitry of their minds to direct their unthinking aggression. Without such guidance, servitors do little but fire wildly, and may even wander off without warning in pursuit of some erroneous protocol. These types aid in the repair of vehicles, or sometimes carry large and dangerous weapons, such as the plasma cannons. So this really goes on to what we've talked about so far. In fact, a great example of servitors working in dangerous conditions, specifically asteroids, was in the Night Lords trilogy, when there is a navigator character, and her first interaction with the Night Lords is they are on an asteroid which happens to be a fragment of Nostromo, and she's serving a rogue trader, and she's on this asteroid as I think there's 100 servitors that are set up mining adamantium.
Is that what Wolverine has?
Yeah, I think it is what Wolverine has.
Yeah.
Wolverine is in fact a Night Lord. It's canon confirmed.
It is confirmed, yes.
He's good mates with Servitor. And these servitors, when the operators were killed, just kept working. They were just like, yeah, cool, man, whatever. And the Night Lords basically harvested these servitors, take them back up to the ship, and Talos is saying to the Exalted, the commander of the vessel, yep, we've got 100 of these servitors, or 80 of these servitors, or whatever, and they're basically saying they're drone models, so we can have them reprogrammed for any of the basic tasks where the servitors we have just died, or aren't working properly anymore. And in fact, when you go through the ship, it goes through some of the fact that there are servitors in some of like the Thunderhawks and that are dead, and they've just rotted in their chairs, and it's a mixture of this cadaver and robotic implants, and it's just doing nothing. And so it's like, oh, maybe we should replace that. We can't just replace it with anything. We need a smarter servitor to operate the heavy bolters,
right, I get you.
But I love the fact that servitors without guidance might just wander off. Like, I can just imagine the servitors is just like, I could kill anyone who comes down this particular hallway. And like a rabbit runs past, and the servitor's like, well, I gotta go get that, gotta go kill it. And it just follows this rabbit.
Yeah. When you read that,
giant rat, I guess.
A giant rabbit. That makes it 40k-ish. When you read that, I was like, oh, so servitors are effectively like toddlers. Lots of violence, lots of noise, and then just wandering off. It's like, what are you doing?
Without guidance, they're just
without guidance. Yeah, they're just like away into a different part of the world, and you're like, do you know what? It sort of makes sense what you did, but dude, I just can't get on your page.
I left my kids alone for like 3 minutes today in our backyard, and I'm around the corner of my house, and in my backyard, I just all of a sudden I hear this thwack, thwack. Like, what are these animals doing? And I walk back there, and Tiny Mother Superior has pulled out a length of the hose and is whipping the side of the house. Like, what are you doing? She's like, it makes noise, Daddy. And I'm like, okay, yes, it does make noise, but why are you whipping my house? So yeah, she basically just pulled a servitor and is just like, oh, erroneous protocol. Time to whip the house.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is part of my one of my processes. Like I don't know why I'm not being guided to not whip the house earlier, but now that I have this modicum of freedom, I'm going for it. So yeah, I do love the fact that they just boot off somewhere else and just like have a little wander, and they're like, oh, there's an enemy over there, or there's gunfire. I guess I need to go to the gunfire and kill the gunfire, and then just gets lost along the way. I think I'm giving them a bit more like childlike wonder than I should, but and just another, or not enough. Yeah, exactly. I think with something, and I remember reading this a long time ago, but something like a wandering off servitor or something like that. I think if they're made from criminals, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but if they have like a criminal core to them, you know what I mean, then I think they've got like kill protocols in them as well, so that they can just be like, there's potentially that this criminal's actually going to go off and be a criminal, hit the button, the brain's fried, cooks the servitor, So I remember, yeah, it's a long time ago, but so because and obviously violent criminals, all that kind of stuff, but like where they've recruited servitors by just rounding up undesirables, they wouldn't have those kill protocols in them. But I'm pretty sure with the criminal ones, they make sure that they can actually terminate them if required. So there is this semblance and this note that we, as members of the Mechanicus, understand that our job is not, our work is not perfect, and as such, we need to have something in there that if that area of humanity switches back on, we can just get rid of these devices very quickly.
I would love to see sort of like groups of, I don't want to say experts, but groups of people who are very good at particular jobs, such as people in the drilling industry, or those gunsmiths from before, or whatever, where they go in and sit there and going, you're all doing an excellent job, and you are better than 90% of people doing your job. So what we're going to do, we're going to effectively kill you and turn you into servitors, so you don't need to keep wasting time like you do with sleep or eating or family or breaks, and you just keep doing it. And because in the mind of the Mechanicum or the Adeptus Terra or whatever, they'd be sitting there going, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And the needs of the many in this case are, you keep digging those holes.
Yep.
And you are your machine, your hole diggers, you're digging tunnels and whatever. We're not going to waste time and money and effort by contacting the squats or building complex machinery. No, we're going to have these tech priests chemically lobotomize you and turn you into servitors, and you're going to keep digging that tunnel. And all that happens is, instead of having to pay and feed and house 50 humans, we now only have to pay and feed and house 10 humans, because you 40...
Yeah.
You're not going to feel feelings anymore. It's basically like megalithium / like antipsychotics. You just don't feel anything.
Yeah. We have the perfect workforce, and that kind of workforce, there's no kill switch in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They just do your job. Your combat servitors, let's go to a prison and basically go, we just need a whole... And we're going to talk about a bunch of different combat servitors sort of at the end of the episode, but go to a prison and go, all right, so we need either gladiators, or we need basically just meat that we can strap knives to and have them just walk into a crowded room of enemy combatants and lose their minds. And they would have a kill, they would have a go button, and they would have a stop button. And I can just imagine replacing arms with blades and punching daggers and that. And you effectively program them, you walk them into an enemy barracks, and you just go, initialize. And it's
Execute Order 62. Damn it. Damn it. Yeah, they're all dead.
Everyone's dead.
Yeah. Wrong order. But those
Wrong
combat servitors...
worst Bucks party ever.
Those combat servitors, I could genuinely see having a kill switch in them, because they are equipped with some powerful, dangerous weaponry. So we need to be able to zap them as soon as we want to. But I just have a quick gang idea from what we're talking about. I was sort of mulling it over when you were talking about yours, and then what you just said there about finding that 90% of the workforce that's really good at doing their job. I see like a tech adept or a Magos or something like that, touching on the idea of what I want to make is, servitors that are a lot more than just servitors. But I don't want to dabble in AI, so I want to use brains that are very capable, and potentially, we can derive a lot more from. So the gang is, the gang's made up of all these different elements of individuals who have in their life displayed a certain skill or ability that has, become their defining character, or something they're quite astute at. So, but this tech Magos is not simply going, you there, arbitrator, go capture this person and trump them up on some charges. This is more underhanded. This is more like almost a study of the individual. The Magos takes time to understand who they are, and this is about making the perfect servitors, about making this ideal form of human and machinery. So the Magos actually studies the individual, looks at them, works out their patterns, their flows, if they have any flaws, if they have any, obviously their defining character is what their first draws the Magos there, but what are their flaws? What can they be, lived with? Can they be taken out? Will they affect the overall operation of my servitor? And then snatches them at some stage and turns them into servitors. So the most gruesome manner of what you were talking about, of humanity against its will being turned into a servitor. But these servitors are treated as effigies of like the greatness of the fusion of humanity and technology. And so, they're not just these functional, rather agricultural looking things. They're still the amalgamation of humanity and technology, but it's done with loads of filigree and loads of, elaborate metalwork and so forth. Each one is a piece of art that the Magos is trying to create. And the Magos would see it as a blessing that they have done for this human, that I've taken what you're capable of, what your most, brilliant skill or, your most renowned ability is, and I've allowed you to practice that every moment of every day. You can practice that. And I've given you better tools to do it. You don't need to go get a different set of tools. They're now attached to you. How wonderful the gift I've bestowed upon you. But in the nature of his great mission and his great desire to create these beautiful servitors, he must equip them with weaponry, because they must be able to defend him still in his great mission, in his higher purpose, to show the rest of the Mechanicum that it is possible to create servitors beyond the realm of functional, that when we use a higher brain or a more a more astute, skilled person, that we can actually create something better. And if we put the time, effort and energy in to creating better equipment for them, or more sustainable equipment for them, then we have servitors that will be able to create better things, do better things, fight better, do everything so much more better. And even if it is only 0. nothing of a percent, we are doing something better. So the Magos sees them as I said before, works of art, pieces of reverence for both the Omnissiah but also humanity as well.
Yeah, that's sick. I'm just thinking it'd be each of them would be incredibly over the top. I'm picturing the armor on them, like because servitors are always wearing those weird jumpsuits.
Yep.
And they've got like the little metal panels and that, but I'm picturing lots of filigree around that, like where the hoses go into the chest or the neck or the arms and that sort of thing. The actual ports themselves, almost, I wouldn't say they'd be precious metals, but they'd be polished.
Yes, absolutely.
There would be a lot of detail put into the armor. The weaponry would maybe be not master-crafted, but it'd be a hell of a lot better than normal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So this industrialized look that we're so familiar with Servitors, this Magos would be going against that and saying,
yes,
we can do it better. Even if we only create 1% of the normal Servitor, creation on this planet, imagine 1% of perfect Servitors.
Yep.
The only time they break down is when the corpse rots.
It reminds me of, in the Eisenhorn book, the Rogue Trader, was it like Maximilian or something? All of his servitors, like one of his servitors looked like a griffin, and it was this person, but then it was effectively like the prow of a ship instead of a torso.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Like they'd be super ornate, super over the top. I sort of got distracted thinking about it for a second, and I was just sort of like, I'm picturing.
I think you must have told me about it, or because I haven't read it, but I've been told about this for sure.
Oh, dude,
100%. Yep.
The way you describe it, the way he'd be building it, and I would actually love to see that as a gang of these super ostentatious, beautiful, almost, like picture. Is it Da Vinci's David?
Yeah, the statue.
Leonardo DiCaprio's David.
Leonardo. Yeah,
DiCaprio's David.
I think I'm not too sure which Ninja Turtle it was, but go on.
Yeah, Donatello's David or Davith. But picture like a servitor, and then it's this. The actual like metal armor gives it that Adonis style musculature. The incredibly defined muscles, the 6-pack abs, but then all of a sudden,
sanguinary regard for the
perfect
Blood Angels. You have that sort of vestige on them.
Yes, picture that. But then the weapons, arms themselves, like they would be incredibly sleek looking. They'd be the filigree. They would almost look like the musculature of a human, but accentuated and then merging with the mechanical. But then I would picture
even the heavy bolter would look so beautifully made.
Yes,
it's not just like a slapped on heavy bolter. It is something that you could see was like on the same equivalent of what a Space Marine Company Command Squad champion would be using. Like beautifully manufactured, stunning looking piece of weaponry. Yeah, so I could see a gang like this coming, and it'd just be, and the Magos themselves, they would also look quite ostentatious as well. Not just your bog standard Magos.
Yeah, I think he'd be seen as somewhat eccentric. Maybe more of an artificer than a regular Magus. Like, they would
definitely. Yep.
What's the word I'm looking for? Not finicky. But they would be very finicky in comparison to their counterparts.
Yes, yeah. Where other members are like, okay, we need to produce and manufacture. This person is saying, I'm going to spend the next 12 hours constructing the finger joints for my Servitor. It's like, perfect. It doesn't even need a hand. This one does, But why? Shh, you don't understand.
Yeah. Like, but do you really need to pay that much attention to the carving on that piece of metal? I was like, of course I do. Like, what do you mean? Why are you asking me this? Go away.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
absolutely.
Jesus.
Yep. Yeah. You're not on the same level as my servitors.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
Yeah, actually, my servitors, they're going to use you as practice. Run. Yeah, right. So that's my gang idea, but I think we've only got a few reads left, so I'll jump into the next one. For both Imperial military forces, the Servitors are practically identical cybernetically, although the Servitors of some Space Marine chapters are created from failed Astartes aspirants who were made largely brain dead as a result of their body's rejection of their implanted Space Marine gene seed organs before their transformation into cyborgs. However, becoming a Servitor allows them another opportunity to serve their chapter and the Emperor. So these sound already perfect as Cataphren destroyers. It's like, line them up, they're big, they're bulky, but more importantly, is their gene seed, the gene seed's in them then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if this dies, they need to recover that gene. Well, you'd have to recover the gene seed because you don't want that genetic material out there.
So this is a point of contention in my mind.
Yeah.
I believe the gene seed would still be in them.
Well, that's why I see it.
By definition, would make them an Astartes battle brother. So when they die, the apothecary would be harvesting the gene seed. But it really would depend at which point of the trials they failed at. So you don't get all the gene seed at once. You don't get all the upgrades at once.
True. Yep.
For example, the Space Wolves have a version of this called the Thrall Servitor. And they're Servitors created by the Iron Priests. And they're made by the chapter's aspirants that failed the test of the Iron Gauntlet. Now, this part sucks. To the Space Wolves, these unfortunate creatures are lower in status than Cyber Wolves, as they committed the unforgivable sin of wasting the time of the gods of iron. Now, only the Thrall Servitor's efficacy will allow them to atone for their failures, as they aid the Iron Priests in battlefield repairs or serve as living weapons. In doing so, a Thrall Servitor will eventually repay his debt to the Iron Priest that he had failed, and perhaps even earn himself a glorious death in the process. So, where other Space Marine chapters may look at these sort of Astartes Servitors and go, okay, you failed here or you failed there, and that sucks, but we're going to not waste your flesh. We are going to allow you to serve us. The Space Wolves hate them.
Yeah. It's like the other Astartes chapters simply say, you have gotten this far. To get this far means you are a highly valued member. Whereas the Space will see it as, you didn't get far enough. You're lower than dirt, basically. But I would see it more as the Marine chapter saying, yes, you I wouldn't say a battle brother. You're not a battle brother.
You've started the process.
You started the process. You're certainly a hero of whichever planet we recruited you from, because it's the only way that you would have got through the front door. So we respect that aspect of you, but you are not one of us. You are owed a certain level of respect, I believe.
But
whereas
Nathan,
Space Wolves are bastards.
Good buddy, it gets worse. There are Space Marine Servitors, where Space Marine Servitors are Servitors that are created from Space Marines. And this is actually used as a form of punishment against Space Marines that have transgressed against their chapter. Chapters such as the Crimson Fists. If you're a Crimson Fist and you make a little bit of a stuffy uppy, they don't pull the old Imperial Fist, boo.
Boo, yep.
You don't jump in the pain glove. No, they lobotomize you and turn you into a servitor.
Yeah, right.
I
would
don't
think
think
with
old
their-
Pedro has enough battle brothers to
I was
be
just
doing
about
this
to say
him.
that.
Were
You would
you?
think with their I was. You would think with their numbers, they'd just be like, okay, look, you said corn instead of God Emperor. We understand your prayer book's a little bit red, and your crimson fists are just due to the blood soaking out of your pores. But we're pretty low on numbers, so we're just going to rotate you back into the battle line.
Yep.
Instead, they go,
Yep.
He has said corn many times. We're going to have to lobotomize him.
No.
Which,
He
surely it's the cruelest of things to do.
he sneezed during prayer and technically said Schmemperor. So time to turn him into a servitor.
Schmemperor. He didn't say Schmemperor. Oh, you got me good there. Just like, yeah, holy Schmemperor. You're done. You're done. You saw it happen 3 weeks ago to old Terry 2 trays over there. That's all he does, carry 2 trays. We don't even need him carrying trays. So you're done. You're going to become, Leonard frickin' no legs. You're cooked. But I almost see the... I think the Space Marines would leave them with a little bit more semblance of who and what they were. Do you not think? Just that, just this extra level of punishment.
Oh, well, I think this goes against a lot of what we've said. We believe servitors are, in a lot of ways, the Imperium using the one thing they have more than anything else, which is crappy technology and a bunch of human bodies. They're using a resource that they can afford to spend in the way they are. Astartes are not a resource you can afford to piss up against the wall like this, in my opinion. And I get it, they have punishments and that, but this is a punishment that far outweighs the crime, especially for something as rare as an Astartes. The concept of the failed aspirants being used in them. I know, for example, in Flight of the Eisenstein, Nathaniel Garrow has a body servant who was an aspirant who failed one of the trials.
Right.
And as the captain, he was the captain of the 7th Company, I think. Garrow. Second Company. Third.
The 7th.
He was second. He was captain of some company, right? And he was just like, hey, we have this tradition. I can have, like, a butler. So this dude's going to buttle for me from now on. So he has this man who buttles for him. And that, to me, makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if someone is damaged or broken or basically ruined, but they have perfectly good body, I can see the logic in using an aspirant, someone who doesn't necessarily have all of the implants and the organs and the gene seed. I get that. Mm-hmm. Moving totally beyond that, where you have someone with gene seed in them, and you're using it is because, you haven't passed you've upset the gods of iron. Well, firstly, sir, that thrall servitor has failed no god. The test of the Iron Gauntlet, sorry. He's failed no god because there is only one god.
Actually, very true. That's Space Wolves.
Once again, Space Wolves skirting logic and law and reason there, and I'm assuming mouth hygiene. But on top of that, when you go further beyond that, I already think that thrall servitors are dumb, especially if these aspirants are at the point where they're receiving the organs and gene seed. But the concept of wasting an actual Marine, don't get me wrong, with the healing ability of Marines and the fact it's a chemical lobotomization, I would love to build a gang around a Marine, an Astartes servitor that has gained back his identity and declares war on his chapter. Because firstly... my brother in chaos. I'm the first guy to sit there and say that the Crimson Fists are in a galaxy of incredible badasses. The Crimson Fists are incredible badasses. Like,
as in, like, they're bad at what they do.
Oh, they're terrible at what they do, but
fungus.
they are tough. No, but
very
like,
tough.
I would love to see an Astartes Servitor who gains back his identity and declares war on his whole chapter, if not the Imperium, but still isn't willing to go to chaos. He skirts that renegade sort of idea. And obviously, you know what? I'd love for him to be an Iron Hand. I'd love for him to be an Iron Hand who's already just a little bit mechanical and sort of go that way, because you can imagine some of the... Because there are just certain chapters that are just better at stuff. And I'm sort of going on this rant idea about like...
No, I
Iron
love it.
Hands
I can see it because like he dabbles in some of the works of Vashtor. Do you know what I mean? And that's enough. Like, and not even, or just even just read something that was, you know, the Dark Mechanicum had left, and they've just like, brother, did you just read that without just purging it straight away? Well, yes, I did. Okay, well, you know, it's going to be iron within, iron out, iron all over. You know, you're stuffed. You know, you're going to be worse than an Iron Hand right now. An Iron Warrior right now. So, I could see that happening, regaining its consciousness because it heals itself back up and strips away the parts of the Servitor it doesn't need. So, you know, I've still got legs from the knees up. I still have most of my torso. I will equip myself with a tasty little adaptable power fist, and I will equip myself with a tasty bolt gun, and I am going to burn the Imperial fists to the ground. But wasn't it the Iron Hands who got you? I am going to burn the Imperial fists to the ground.
Another chapter that use Astartes Servitors are the Sons of Medusa.
They're Iron Hands as well.
Iron Hand successor chapter, and they are nuts.
All right. Extrapolate that sentence.
Oh no, they're just like they're straight up just hostile. Like they're big on like they're big and respected and that sort of thing. But their whole thing's just like, so we could do this logically, or we can basically just do everything with like the ruthless aggression and efficiency of all the worst parts of the Iron Hands from the Heresy era. Let's go the second option, buddy. But yeah, their whole thing is just like, if you don't live up to the standards of the chapter, we're just going to turn you into an Astartes Servitor. Take your gene seed out and put it in someone else.
That is bonkers. That is absolutely bonkers. Yeah, you're not matching our standards. What were your standards? Well, that's for us to know, and for you that you should have found out. So you haven't. So that's another failing. You should have found out these well before this point. So we're going to chemically lobotomize you now.
We're going to turn you into a freaking Astartes Servitor. That's the best.
They'd be huge too.
They would be massive.
That's actually really cool. I could almost see them falling them into, oh no, you're going to get interred into a dreadnought. You'll be fine. And they just walk past that chamber where everybody gets interred into a dreadnought. They just continue down a darker, narrower hallway.
How would they subdue the Marines to turn them into servitors, or would the Marines go willingly?
Oh, it'd just be like the old classic of like, no, the Emperor's come back. You're going to meet him. We're just going to take you down this hallway next door. Oh, no. What are you going to do? The Emperor's you'll meet him next door. Oh, no, you'll meet him. You just got to lie on the table. Okay. And then you just got to be sedated. And then, got him. Done.
Got him.
Yeah, the Emperor's going to come back and pat you on the head specifically for failing.
Classic. Well, our last read here, before we talk about some of our favourite servitors, perhaps the most feared of all servitors are the Praetorian Servitors, a class of heavily armed and armoured gun servitors deployed by the Adeptus Mechanicus to guard the tech priests and templars dedicated to the machine god. Of course, they keep the most violent and ridiculous versions of their own servitors to look after their own stuff. Typically, they're enormous. They're typically created from Ogren stock, either vat grown or mine scrubbed, and they are obviously bigger than even Space Marines. Now, Praetorians can be armed with either solar pattern heavy bolters, multi-lasers, or auto cannons on one arm, and they just have a casual industrial claw on the other. So picture prisoners with job Ogrins, and instead of just regular mining equipment, you give them a multi-laser.
Yeah,
that's I love me a multi-laser.
I sort of see them almost like on the Cataphren type setup, like huge tracks, but bigger again. Do you know what I mean? And then bigger bodies, bigger torsos, heavily armed. Almost imagine them with the giant slab shields as well. So they come together as a protectorate unit, sort of for a Magos, and they just plant all these down, and then they're just weapons that are mounted on their shoulders just lift over the shields, and they just start shooting down.
They're literally a wall, and just moving forward, and the guns are just tracking over the shoulders and just bang, 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 bang. And the tech priest is just slowly walking on his little, millipede legs behind them, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly how I see it. And that's just his entry into the local Mechanicum hall. Just that's how I make every entrance. That's really cool. I mean, that's we do have the Ogren Servitor as well. So I guess this is what the Praetorian would be. Do you know what would be perfect, actually? The Charonite Ogren? Something like that. Do you know it's got its choppy claws?
Snips.
Yeah, you have them. Mount a gun on top of it. Keep the helmet on there. It's almost perfect. It's like Ogren. It's Servitored up straight away. It just needs a few little extra bits and bobs, a few wires hanging off it, and it's done. Yeah, I reckon that's a great idea.
I'm just looking here, see if I can find. Yeah, so the solar pattern heavy bolter is it's just a different design of heavy bolter.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's a standard heavy bolter.
I was hoping for something a bit cooler.
Nah,
but
solar powered. On desert worlds, it works awesome.
Yeah, as soon as the lights go out.
Nah.
That's okay. Use it as a club, my giant Praetorian Servitor. You wily combatant, you. Look, I guess we talked about multiple different types of servitors, but I guess there's more generic ones as well, like the gun servitor. Well, we've talked about the gun servitors. It's like the combat servitor you take, for example, which is more your sort of catch-all sort of servitor, which is you can have a little gun, or you can have a claw, or you can have a weapon, or something like that.
They're the models that have been getting made for years and years and years. I'm pretty sure those same servitors, that idea of gun on one arm and the other arm being claw / so many of them have a tuning fork.
Yes, yeah.
It's just this is I've got a flamer and a snippy clip. I've got a bolter and a pincer of doom, and it's I have tuning forks. Boom.
My one weakness. And the Emperor's Children Marines are just I like it.
I like this guy.
Who is your composer, sir?
Hey,
you are amazing.
We should get several beers later on. And have you heard about Ghast? Because we want to inject it into your eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, do that fork thing again. Freaking love this guy.
Yeah, praise holy Slanesh. That is tingling me in my tingly bits. Right. Anyway.
Yep.
I'm not going to say that. Actually, that's terrible. I'll just say
I love it. I love tingle me in my tingly bits. Bung!
just Emperor's children dropping, keeling over, but not really dying, just incapacitated.
Well, okay, so I'm going to be the one to rerail this derail. Why don't we talk about some of the sort of more common servitors that people would know about? And then look at some of the sort of weirder, for lack of a better term, more horrible shit that seems to show up in 40k.
Is the cherub? Have we mentioned the cherub servitor? I don't think we have.
I don't think why don't you talk about cherub servitors?
So yeah, the cherub servitor, which is just disgusting. It's like we of the Imperium value the gift of human life in the form of a little baby. How best should we represent this? Well, let's vat grow a little baby and turn it into a servitor. Fantastic. Or let's create some sort of ridiculous abomination and skin it like a baby. Fantastic. Like, why haven't we been doing this sooner?
Well, cherubs, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're vat grown, aren't they? Okay,
I believe so.
I'm going to rephrase that. They are definitely vat grown, aren't they? They are baby slugs, not baby people.
They are not baby people.
Thank you, Nathan. My sanity needed that.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. That is a great example of a servitor, whether you realise it or not. You've seen hundreds of times. In every Imperial Codex, there is 50 of these things. I'm pretty sure there is 50 per page in any of the Inquisition, Agents of the Imperium, or Sisters of Battle Codexes, and anything to do with Black Templars.
Definitely the Sisters of Battle. I remember looking at this. Do you remember the big double-page spread that they had? I think it was in one of the rule books, actually. And it was just ridiculous, the amount of little cherubs that were on there. It's like, man, that is a lot of vat-grown babies.
Yeah, and once again, thank you for reiterating the term vat-grown.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is one. There you go. It's a horrible example of the Imperium, where they design them to be these, I guess, cute, fat babies, and they're flittering around. In fact, there is two of them in. I'm going to reference another Gaunt's Ghost novel here. I believe it was Necropolis, where the planetary governor in the sort of main hive, in Vervenhive, he lives in a vat. He basically lives in this vat because it keeps him alive and keeps him sort of going and connects him to the entire hive. But he has these sort of like, I don't think they were cherubs actually. I think they were like teenagers. But they were effectively a mixture of servitor and like puppet. Like, you know how Pinocchio had the strings? These servitors had the strings, and they'd like drop down from the ceiling, and they'd be like fa la 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 la, and then one of them started stabbing a guy. That was honestly
still doing fa la 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 la.
While still going fa la la la, he couldn't tell a lie because his nose would get bigger, and also stabbed the guy. But yeah, like the cherub servitors are these cute, bumbly little babies and that. But I just remembered, we've had models of cherub servitors.
We have, and I just, while you were chatting there, I had a quick little Google search, and there are a couple. There's a cherub struggling to haul a bolter. There's a cherub with a canister of promethium.
That's the fat one with it's got like an old man head.
Yep.
Definitely. And there's one on the Space Marine Librarian on the shoulder. It's got like it's got like an axe and a shield.
Yes, and there is the cherub.
No, it's got a knife. It's got a knife and a shield.
Look at that.
Yeah, no. I've literally just found it. It's got a knife and a shield.
Yes, it does. Yes, knife and a shield, because it is a combat cherub, which is just silly. Then you have the Censer Bearer Cherub from...
Yeah.
Don't quite know where that one is from.
But like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
them. A lot of sister battle kits have them. There was the Armorium cherubs in the old Devastators kit.
Yes. Yep.
Like, we see a lot of them, and until you really sort of learn about it, and I'm okay with them kind of because they're slugs. Like, I think that's cool.
Do you know what, though? As I look at these pictures of them, I think I know what they are to me.
Yeah.
They are like the ammo grots and the fuel grots and all that kind of stuff that exists within the Orc range.
Yes, they are.
They're just... It's the Imperium's basic version of a grot. They've seen a grot, seen how effective it can be, and they're gone, let us bring children to war.
So,
And somewhere somebody said, no, let us not bring children to war.
slug babies.
Well, let's bring slug babies to war. And this one's carrying a book. And let's give them ridiculous things to carry for us. One can carry some scripture, and one can carry some, some promethium. And I'm pretty sure I'm looking at one carrying a melter bomb. That is my favourite cherub, the cherub with the melter bomb. I'm just like, you go for it, little guy, because
You
no
blow
matter
them up,
what
slug
happens,
baby. You
somebody's in
tiny
trouble.
iron warrior, you.
So no worry.
You laughed. I've actually just figured it out. One of the reasons I think the cherub servitors are so prevalent, especially in places it doesn't make sense for them to be, for example, with devastators or librarians or carrying melter bombs and promethium and that sort of stuff, it's because servo skulls can't do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Servo skulls, you can give them a medipack or a gun or whatever. But like, look at what they're doing. You wouldn't be able to give any of those things to a servo skull. It's too heavy for it.
Yes, exactly. It only has so many teeth. It would struggle.
Well,
so,
you're being dumb, but yes, you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, look at
how dare you.
the cherub servitors of House Cawdor. Like, they are a mixture of... They're a mixture of religious symbol, but also grot lugger. They're a flappy grot lugger. They can fly between levels. They have the special rule of flight, I think it's called. So they ignore terrain and that sort of stuff. As long as they can sort of make their movement to there, they can get there. And look at it into a sort of real life perspective, where you'd look at them and be like, well, it doesn't matter if they need to get through somewhere small. A servo skull could do that, absolutely. But a cherub servitor can do it while carrying another belt of grenades to take to the soldiers, or ammunition, or commands. Like,
yeah, true. I guess they're almost like carrier pigeons in a way.
I think I say caryatids. But yeah, they are.
They are the true cherub.
They're a carrier
servo
pigeon with a nappy.
Yes, well, I'm pretty sure they don't have nappies. Like, it doesn't really show you a lot of the rear pictures of a little cherub, but
they're all wearing nappies.
You see a lot of bum, mate. That's a lot of bums. Yes.
Also, in Space Marine 2, the cyber cherubs are literal, like, mind horror. They genuinely freak me out.
Yeah, yes, yeah, they're not great in that. You look at them and you just think, this is why I both love and detest the Imperium. So yeah, the servo cherub, I think, is probably something I think a lot of the Imperium would see, definitely, but also something that is not as fearful as a servitor. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a terrifying thing, but it's almost like this mythical type of servitor, because it's got its little flappy wings and it hovers around on them and does whatever it does. It almost looks like it has a disconnect with humanity. Yeah. So if you were looking at it, say you're a regular guardsman, you're just about to go storm that Iron Warrior's position because they don't know how to build a wall. And you have a look at it, and you see this little cherub flying past. You're like, I can deal with that. But then you see a servitor that resembles you, or more of what you could become, and that is a true terror, because the little cherub is just, it's just a little homing pigeon, a little carrier pigeon doing its job, whereas the servitor with the, you know, the large industrial claw or industrial device attached to it is something that you could quite possibly become.
Yeah.
So I think there's for me there's certainly more of an attachment of fear and I guess foreboding with a regular servitor as opposed to a cherub. But yeah, that's one type of the common. I think
I've got a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is a servitor because it is something that has whole parts of itself cut off and removed and adjusted into sort of like a monotask type situation. And it would be the arcoflagellants.
Oh, yes.
So, and there's a great quote about arcoflagellants here. So, imagine that. Your limbs removed, replaced with spark wisps and nests of claws. Eyes bored from your skull and stained glass in their places. Your heart and organs fixed with stim injectors and neuropathic glands. And then, proud in your new body, what remains of your drooling waste of a mind will be turned to the good of the Imperium. With a word of my command, you'll willingly fling yourself into the jaws of hell, a berserk flesh machine bound for a long, long death. Arcoflagellants suck. Like, it's probably just one of the absolute worst things to happen to you if they are going to turn you into a servitor. Basically, they cut off your limbs and replace your organs with more sort of hardy versions of them, get a bunch of like stim and drug injectors in there, and then put like goggles over your face, and all they show you is just religious dogma and all the like, you know, reinforcing your loyalty to no one but the ecclesiarchy. And then you're taught command words that are the be-all and end-all of your being. And when you are not activated, you're a drooling, mumbly, bumbly, tumbly. Like there's nothing going for you. And the moment someone says one of your command words, you explode into action. And all you can do is just know that you have to move forward and kill whatever is in front of you because the Emperor wills it. And then, you know, once your job's done, you know, shish kebab, and you're going back to drooly.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this is one of those moments where it's just not like keep fighting till you die. This is, well, you've achieved your task. Okay, time to switch off the fun switch in your head, and we'll gather you up in whatever yellow bus we have and take you back to where we need. Yeah, I guess the arcoflagellant, I never thought of it as a servitor. It's almost like, because it is so, I guess it's so devoid of what I think a servitor should be, this drooling sort of like wait for command, fire gun, move to next target sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this is you 100% the way you described it there, of this like the religious dogma being poured into its brain, and then once its leash has come off, it's just sent into the forefront of the enemy, and just whippy, just zapping people left, right, and centre, just absolutely causing grief. And it makes sense as well. You would see able-bodied men and women of the Imperium, and you would think that is a waste as a hollow servitor, or a, just something that we put into an industrial complex. We can turn this into something that is more effective for us as a combat weapon, so...
It's also a specific type of punishment. Like, if
this
happens to you, if you offend a ranking member of the church... Like, remember the Valdorians and the Valdonians? Like, guaranteed a bunch of
Yes, I
these
do.
guys wound up as the archoflagellants, like, or combat servitors specifically for the church. Like,
Well, I
guaranteed.
I really like this the archoflagellant. I don't know. It stirs something in me, and I so like it's almost like a. This is going to sound messed up. It's almost like a blessing. You know, you're getting the opportunity to serve the emperor and fight at the forefront and destroy his enemies, and you do it with this ideal of religious fervor. You know what I mean? You know
That is the worst thing you've ever said.
it is a bit of a blessing. It's like you get to do it for the piety of the emperor. These are not frateris militia either, so there's something more dignified about them. You know, there's just like this: get into combat, punchy, slash, switch off. We'll come and get you when you need it. They're like dreadnoughts. They're basically as venerable as dreadnoughts. Yes, I see it. I see it now. They're wonderful. I don't really see them as a bad thing. The old archoflagellant. There's something. I don't know. Do you know what they've always reminded me
Literally
of?
the
Eversaur
worst
assassins.
thing you've ever said.
They've always reminded me of Eversaur assassins, and I love Eversaur assassins.
Yeah, actually,
because-
no, I take that back. They are very cool, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like you get an Eversaur assassin, you flick it at the enemy, and maybe it kills the enemy, maybe it kills your guys, but you definitely know it's killing everything. And that's sort of what the archoflagellant looks like to be. Like once it's in, it just starts whacking everybody with those things. Yeah, no, I'm down for these guys, and guys and girls. If you take the current plastic box set, they've got both in there, which is that shows a quality in the 41st millennium. Well done, Games Workshop. Well done.
You get punished, and you get punished.
You get to serve, and you get to serve, and you
Okay.
get to serve. Yeah. Right. So there are a couple of others. One of them that I'd like to mention is, and I don't know if this is a common servitor type, but the Cenobite servitors, they are very much
Black Templars?
Yeah, very much focused around the Black Templars, but they're sort of. I think they're really focused around serving the chaplains of the Black Templars. Obviously,
Isn't there only one?
Only one chaplain of the Black Templars.
Isn't it just Grimaldus, and then everyone else wishes they were Grimaldus?
Every Black Templar.
Every Black Templar.
Every Black Templar in their heart of hearts wants to be a chaplain. And
No,
there
wants to
will
be
come a time.
Grimaldus.
Yeah, they want to be a chaplain. And so at some stage in the near future, or maybe distant future, who knows, the entire Black Templars chapter will be all just chaplains. And the enemy will give up, not from the ferocity they bring to the battlefield, but from the fact that they did not shut up with their chanting for the entire 3 weeks of the war.
Fine, just kill us. We don't care anymore.
Turn
You
me
win.
into a servitor.
You win.
Just imagine that.
Just imagine Lorgar. Just, you win. You win. Enough. Enough.
You guys are religious nutters.
Yeah.
Like,
Erebus
I have a
just
problem
like,
with you.
I'm an atheist now. All right?
Do you know the Night Lords do the terror type of warfare where they just fill the airways with screams and stuff?
Yep.
That is now the new mantra of combat for the Black Templars. Just yamada 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 yama, yamada 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 yama, just like constant. Just imagine, any Chaos Space Marine is just like do you know what?
I'm done.
I repent.
I'm
I
done.
repent. Just give me to a Dark Angels chaplain and sort me out.
They just say to them, "We're opening the doors. Just set up a gun line, lads. We are coming out. Here's our guns. We're done." They just take it off their armor and just walking out. Be like, "Yep, thank you. It's been great. It's been it's been a nightmare. That servitor right there. You are off key, sir. You are off key the whole time. All right. Everyone else has been in tune except you. This is why. This is worth it.
Worth it, yeah, totally worth it. Anyway, when we talk about Cenobite Servitors,
Cenobites, yes.
So Cenobites, yeah, well, they I guess is what you imagine servitors really should be like just these things of servitude, where they are providing assistance to their master, basically carrying things and lugging things around and being representatives of, whatever religious icon or edifice or whatever the case might be, and basically just things that you use to carry, and just you can tell them to stop. They become a table when you need them to become a table, and they become a table of motion once you're ready to go on the move. And it's a wasted task on a space marine, because you don't want to do that. It's also a wasted task on a human, because the human will eventually tire and have all these other little issues that the servitors do not have, very much like the same issues they would face within the Manufactorum. But the Cenobite will go on.
And sometimes you need a servitor to just carry a freaking column with you wherever you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the increased strength, the ability to do more than what a regular human can do. And if it was a spaceman, they're probably better than the Servitor, but you were not going to waste that kind of talent and ability unless you are the was it Crimson Fists?
Yeah, the Crimson Fists, the Iron Hands, Sons of Medusa.
Sons of Medusa, that was the one. Yeah, the absolutely naughty no-goods. So I guess for me, the Cenobite Servitor is probably other than like servitors that are used in industrial formats, are probably like the most, I guess, quintessential style of taking a servitor.
Yeah.
In the sense that you just need an extra body, an extra labourer, that is potentially stronger than a human, but doesn't require all the little maintenance issues of a human, like sleep and food and anything else.
What are the other ones that Grimoldus has? He's got the guy carrying the altar, the column from the altar.
Yeah.
There's a banner.
There is a
and
banner
there's
thing.
one cleaning a
like
sword. No, that's
that's High Marshal Hellbrand. Yeah, Hellbrand. Yes. So you've got the Imperial Eagle column thing, the banner, and then the little sort of weird sensory bearer guy.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Very, very strange looking models. I think those, just a shout out to the actual models themselves, the upgrade for them to bring them, I guess, more into line with the Primaris or whatever the case might be, was a beautiful upgrade.
Phenomenal.
They went from like really, really good models back in when they were first released. You look at them and go, yep, this is fantastic, to wow, this is really, really, as the kids would say, a bit of a glow up.
The kids have never said that. Yeah, I like it. Do you reckon they are... So are the Cenobite Servitors failed aspirants?
Ooh. Do you know, looking at the miniatures they've got... I say yes as well, because they have these areas on their arms where implants could potentially be. So yes, I'm going to say they are failed aspirants. They're not Space Marines who've been turned into servitors. They've been going along the process, and they have done the big old stuffy whoppy by not being able to spit acid, or not having their two heartbeats being able to pump out Sandstorm by Darude. So,
or one of them sneezed and called him the Snemperor.
The Snemperor.
Praise the Snemperor.
We look for you.
Praise the who now?
Praise the what now? Yeah, we always look for a Snemperor accuser in every new batch, and you are it, sir. So I hope you enjoy carrying stuff. Right. Okay, so what are the other different types? I guess the other type of servitor that I think we'd see a lot of is the... you see it on the AdMech... I think it's the Scorpius. That's their tank thing.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. And it actually has it's got like the turret with the twin. I'm not a great AdMech player, so I'm assuming they're heavy stubbers. So it actually has a Servitor gunner in there as well.
Yeah, those
And I
hardwired
think,
weapon servitors.
yeah, they're just like locked in place. It's almost like the Cataphren in a way where that's really just a Servitor hardwired to a gun and a track system. And I think across the Imperium, a lot of people would see gun servitors left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
They'd be manning missile turrets. They'd be manning any kind of defence system, and they are purely just the turret servitor.
But it's anything military or anything to do with the sort of running of the Imperium as a whole. They're attached to radios and communications. They are manning doors. They
Yes.
are, they are in every possibility where you can have a human doing the job, absolutely. But the human is there for that finite amount of time. The Servitor is there 24/7. The Servitor can
Yes.
be there, and the Servitor is monitoring why they're opening the gate. Who are these people they're letting in? Are they
Yeah.
running through the same process as they did for the last person? Is the last person being run through the correct process at all? Like the way it's being done. Yeah, you're going to have the servitors doing a job that a person can do, but doesn't necessarily have to. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the industrial servitors we're talking about. They are people that have been reinforced, whether it be, I don't want to say like servo equipment like put into their legs and stuff, but they are going to have reinforcement, an exoskeleton, shout out to Grant, built around them so to make their bodies stronger. So when they have the giant lifter arms put on, they can carry heavy crates and the like. A human could do it with machinery, or you can just get a servitor to do it. You could get an Ogren to do it, or a Servitor Ogren, which will be able to do it to a greater extent. We see Servitor Ogrens in Necromunda. We see the, what are they called? The Cogitator Core Servitors for House Vansar. Like, they are just a Servitor doing the computing that a human can do, but a Servitor can do it better, longer, and more efficiently. Like,
Yeah, totally agree with that. And like even with this, take for example your door servitor thing, right?
Yep.
That doesn't need to be separate from the door. It can just be input built into the wall next to it.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
You
then
see them in
once
Space Marine too.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's exactly what
yeah.
I was thinking of. Yeah, you just input it into the wall. The gun servitor, you just build it into the gun. The I don't know the gantry servitor for lowering and raising a gantry or whatever. Just build it into it. And then once the flesh rots away or it becomes malfunctioning, you simply just unplug it and plug in another servitor.
Exactly.
You're like, cool. And who do you get to plug in that servitor? Other servitors.
The Servitors, just,
It makes total sense. Yes.
replace the light bulb toaster.
Exactly. Yeah, you could have a light servitor.
Yeah.
You speak to it, just servitor, turn lights to, I don't know, 60%. Beep bop, beep bop. 60%. Beep bop, beep bop. Done. They all say beep bop, beep bop. But
Okay. So, we've got a whole list of just freaky deaky, horrific servitors here. Of that whole list of the real, horrible existence servitors, what do you... what is one... I want you to have a quick read through them. While you're doing that, I'm going to read a couple of servitors I think are fantastic, and I would love to see more of in 40k. For example, the Runner Servitor. Now, the Runner Servitor is used by Imperial Army regiments to gather bins filled with spent Lasgun power cells. The Servitors would then drag the bins away to recharge the power cells with a charger more, before returning them to the regiment's troopers. Something you could get a person to do, but a person is better on the front lines fighting the enemy.
yes,
You have,
100%.
for example, ecclesiarchal servitors. They're exclusively used by the Sisters of Battle. They are specially modified by the Adeptus Mechanicus to suit the Sisters' needs, and are dispatched first into combat zones to provide essential infrastructure for the Sisters' campaigns, as well as providing maintenance for damaged vehicles and buildings. The Ecclesiarchal Servitor also has the ability to dismantle enemy fortifications, using its deep knowledge of structural engineering to cause extreme damage to buildings. They're literally... like, that's from Dawn of War.
Oh,
But
right, yes.
they would drop
yeah.
them into
Yeah.
like combat zones effectively through this. Drop them into combat zones, and they're just like, start building a base. Start building a chapel, and then barracks, and then a mess hall, and you get that done like you would if you were playing an RTS game. But I just think it's a great little sort of idea put on there that I'd love to see. I'd love to see more of these. I'd love for us to get just more Servitor models, But
I agree. And I mean, we've got the new kill team that got previewed to us, which has more Servitor models in it.
yeah,
That's actually it's got a few that we haven't mentioned, but we'll get back to them in a second. But I think the notion of the Servitor is something so intertwined with the Imperium, and not necessarily humanity, but it shows how far humanity has gone from where it wanted to be, where it needed to be better, and the wide rampant use of them just further sort of, I guess, puts into place that idea that humanity is now, a tool of war, a function to hold back the great dark sort of thing. And the Servitor is an integral part of that, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, that pretty much entire worlds just made up of Servitors, just going around doing the day-to-day tasks.
Yeah.
So I think when you say you'd like to see more models, absolutely. But I think there's more application, that's not talked about. When you think of your normal daily life in your current world, all these little tasks and things that you do that you just can't be bothered doing, or that just seem quite tedious and mundane, that is the perfect place for a Servitor to take over. Don't want to drive to work? Servitor. I sound like I'm trying to do a sales pitch for Servitors in the modern world.
Do you work for Tesla now? Hey, Scummers, do you not want to drive to work? Introducing the new Tesla Servitor class personal transport vehicle. It's just like a regular Tesla, except we made it more horrific. That's
Yes.
right, we jammed a lithium battery inside this man's head. We've destroyed his frontal lobe. He has no upper thought process. Internally, all he does is scream. But it means you get to sleep that extra 90 minutes on your commute to work. Tesla, we're making the future worse.
Perfect.
Boom.
You've obviously read the pamphlets I've been handing out. But yeah, and I only have to drive 10 minutes to work. So, I don't need it, but I still will use it.
I will still use it. Can you imagine just going to sleep and having this robot person drive you to work?
Oh, it's
It's
just
the best.
It's horrific, absolutely horrific, but also 10 minutes extra sleep. Sign me the hell up. But I think what you're trying to say is you'd like to see more models of it. I think you could do a Servitor for pretty much everything and anything. Bartender Servitor. We like to think of not using them in that context because there's so much character and so much development we can place within that, a lucky 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if they could just have Servitors just serving drinks, go for it. You have become a serving Servitor. Or, even just a Servitor. Yes, exactly. But going around, actually, there's a restaurant not too far from me that has a little robot that brings out your food. Now, that's probably abominable AI in the eyes of the Imperium, but they could quite easily replace that with Servitor, and they go, "You're a serving Servitor. You are a waiter. You get out there and you deliver the food." So I think, and you did mention it earlier, the menial task, but it's not even a menial task. It's just stuff that you just don't want to do, or stuff that you can't be bothered doing, or stuff that bears no interest for you. there is a Servitor, and I imagine the noble houses would just be inundated with just Servitors of every style and description. I think it's easy to get lost in the idea that they're the size of a man, but they don't have to be. They can be significantly smaller. They could just be the brain pan attached to X, Y, and Z bits of robotic material, so that, Lady What's-Her-Face from House Yolante can just get her hair touched up every day. You see what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
You could make that Servitor, absolutely, because there is an application for it. So, yes, I agree with you. I'd love to see more models, but I think the lore allows us to think of a lot more creative and equally horrific ways for Servitors to be applied. So I'll just quickly go over a few of the Servitors that are coming with I think it's called Typhon. Yes, it is Typhon. The Typhon set. And these are the ones that I don't think we've touched on our list. There's a Breacher Servitor, which is obviously designed to kick indoors and cut open bulkheads and all the rest of it. There's a Technomatic Servitor.
It's like a giant lass cutter on his arm.
It is definitely something like that. But the Technomatic Servitor, we know there's Medic Servitors as well. So this is probably just a rehash of this, because we know they already exist. It's just getting a nicer, newer model. And then there's
That's the Grease Monkey. That's the Grease Monkey Servitor.
What?
It's literally a Servitor medic. So it's like half like doctor and half mechanic. It's a Grease Monkey.
It is too. It is too.
I need this for my wrecker gang.
Right.
Old Grease Monkey out. New Grease Monkey in.
It's like, last time, Mr. Servitor. Now, I shouldn't show you this much respect, but I'm going to, because last time you gave me an oil change. Now, I am a human. Now, I'm begging you, do not give me an oil change this time. All right, you're going to change my carburetor. You're sacked. I'm done with you. I've had enough of you. I know I can't get away. I'm just crying on the inside.
There's a tech priest just sort of ducking around the corner and be like, carburetor, you say? Hello.
Hello. You're speaking my language. Beep up, beep up, beep up, beep up.
You changed my oil.
And then we have the auto proxy Servitor, which I am not 100% what that particular role is. So I know that it can automatically proxy. That's what I'm aware it can do.
If you get enough of them and you put them on a table, you can say they're a Space Marine squad.
Oh, righto. So this is when you're playing. When you want to play 40k and you don't have the appropriate miniatures, go out and spend hundreds of dollars procuring individuals of this, and then you can proxy them as anything.
Perfect. The auto proxy is, I'm guessing, communications, maybe?
It does look like a communications.
Maybe sort of tapping into the noosphere and doing it that way. Or it could just be maybe the link between the techno-archaeologist and the Servitor Underseer.
Oh, that's right, yeah, because this box has the Servitor Underseer, which is, I think, is something new. Like, I'm not as well versed.
Yeah, we
over
talked
Servitors.
about it briefly. Yeah,
but
I don't.
It's like a controller, basically.
Yeah, I don't even know when this thing's coming. It hasn't been announced yet, though, has it?
Games Workshop wouldn't announce it soon, I don't think. I don't know.
Oh, guaranteed. No, you know what? Guaranteed. We've done an episode on it. We're going to release it. And then the day after the episode... Oh, no, it's a Sunday. So, like, 2 days after it's released, after the episode's released, they'll just be like, and we're releasing the Kill Team. And I'd be like, yes. I knew it. I told you.
They listen to us, Sam. They listen.
Yeah.
And they know how to scupper us. Right, so, that's just a few of the Servitors that, like, I guess are newish in a way. But I still think there's such a broad range. In terms of your question before, what is the most horrific of Servitors? Oh, that is a very good question.
Like, of all of the whole list of the different patterns of Servitors, through all of that whole list, what is your favourite Servitor there? That's an easier one, then.
Oh, that favourite is the Archoflagellant. That's the best Servitor. Yep. I would sign up for that. I'd be like, yes, service, my lord. Like, scoop out the grey matter, put in the angry matter.
Give me an oil change.
Give me change up. I'm down for an oil change right now because I've got bits that leak. I would love to see like a. So my idea of a corn magi or something. This is a bit off the off track. Is like almost like a corn blacksmith or a warp forge master, and making combat servitors like this to serve the Lord of Blood, and just like switch them all on. But these ones don't fight until they're done. They fight until they die. That's a cool idea. Yes. I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right. Now, I pose a question to you then. What is your favourite servitor?
That's really easy. And this one here is on Lexicanum. And it is the Servo Rat. Servo rats are rats that the Imperium has converted into servitors and are used to reach small enclosed areas that are otherwise unreachable. Those controlling the servo rats can then use the servitor's pict feed to view inside of the areas. That is the dumbest servitor I've ever heard of.
Wait, so it's a servitor, just a small servitor.
It's a rat that they've lobotomized, replaced parts of it with robot parts, and then said, "Go inspect holes."
So what they're using is a camera.
It's basically it's a rat camera.
It's a rat camera. We have them even in the modern world, but we don't call them rat cameras. We call them like
Children.
pipe cameras or
pipe cameras. Yes, yes. Like inspection cameras. We took that different directions.
Yes, Timmy, yes. I need to know what's happening at the bottom of the well. Go have a look again.
Goblin Juice, come here. Daddy, please stop putting me in a well. Shut up, rat servitor.
Yeah.
No, so honestly, my absolute favourite type of servitor, if I'm being serious, actually comes from Necromunda. And I'm going to say it's the Piscean Spectre.
Oh, you sneaky
technically,
bastard.
It is a servitor. It is a not an imperial servitor, but it is a servitor. Ooh. And then you could also say maybe like the cephalopod spectres, because technically they're organic, because they're cloned from the brain matter of the House to Lark members. But yeah, the Piscean spectres, I think, are some of the creepiest and most horrible form of servitor, because they're a Xenos, and because the Xenos is willingly allowing this to happen to them to then serve House de Lark.
Okay, so you have near the very end of the episode, you treaded a dangerous path here, because I'm thinking in my brain servitors are Imperium only, patented, copyrighted. Not. But they're not, are they? Because the dirty Chuchai, the Dark Elder.
No, there was a guy who in, I want to say it was Graham McNeil, but I think it was Priests of Mars. He had technically it's Imperial, but there was a tech priest who was making servitors out of orcs.
Oh, fantastic. Great idea.
Like it's
orcs
great.
Basically make servitors anyway. They're just like, add more bits to the boys until the boy becomes like...
Eat the battery. Eat the battery mushroom.
But this makes me think that like other races could potentially do it. And there's so many... I mean, definitely the Elder are not going to do it, but their cousins would be doing it, as I mentioned. The Harlequins, that is. No, obviously not the Harlequins, the Dark Elder. I think there is potential for it. And then the Chaos Servitor, I think, is the...
I actually disagree. I don't think any other species is as inhumane as humanity.
No. The Dark Elder, they basically make servitors with the
Like the
the
Talos paint
Talos
engines
machine.
and
Yeah,
the
yeah, or
grotesques
like
and stuff.
yes,
I see those as very different things. I don't. No, you're absolutely right. The Dark Eldar, yes, but I still think
Chaos Servitors.
the depravity, huh?
Chaos Servitors has got me thinking. So imagine making a servitor, like, naughty, like dark Mechanicum guy, gets
That's
a
still
willing.
Mechanicus, though. Come on.
It's Mechanicus, yeah. No, but no. You let me finish, sir.
Okay,
You
sorry.
get this servitor, you bolt some bits and bobs to it, you've turned a willing supplicant into this, and then you get a demon and you put the demon inside of it.
That's
And
called an obliterator, sir.
You shake. No, it's not. Obliterators aren't they Space Marines?
They've got the obliterator virus in them, which is basically a melding of organic, demon, and machine.
No, don't worry about the guns. You have a demon in perpetual servitude to you, trapped within basically a husk.
Oh,
You torture the demon
snippety snap.
with the format of the servitor because there is no life left in this servitor. There is a story there.
Yeah, that is cool.
So what I'm thinking here is that the servitor is used as a threat to the demon, because the demon wants to feed off, the emotions of the human soul, the aspirations, the fear that it would generate, and if that servitor has had that removed, then it's just being contained within something, that it can basically you almost lock it into it and then you make it serve you at the same time. It's the ultimate humiliation and degradation.
What's it called when demons go back to the warp?
Traveling.
No. When they're... Because obviously they can't just stay in the material realm, right? They have to... they have to be bound to the material realm, but they... I don't know.
Banished? Are you saying banished?
Not banishment. It's not when they're forcibly sent back. It's just the natural process of them returning. They they lose grip on reality. Demons know that if whatever happens to them, they go back to the warp, right?
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's like when the Iron Warriors bind demons to war machines. They trick the demons into going into these cannons and guns and that sort of stuff, and the demons just want to get out and get back to the warp. What you're giving is a way for a warpsmith or a dark mechanicus agent or whatever to literally torture demons for all eternity.
Yes.
By trapping them in a body and then possibly keeping the body sustained.
Yeah, so you keep that sustained as long as you can, like put rejuve treatments and whatever. The demon would be obviously actively trying to destroy the body at the same time.
Yeah.
But if it's, if you've taken away its implements, its arms, its legs, whatever the case might be, this poor demon I say, but this creature now is trapped within there. I could see this having some use or manifestation there, and as I said, there's a story there. There is a story of a demon being trapped and eventually coming out and just being like, I am so angry at the Imperium for this. So I am going to take it out on Angron, and then just dies. It's a short story, obviously.
It's a very short story.
Yeah. So that's got my brain thinking a fair bit. But anyway, I've derailed us horribly. We were getting to the end of our episode, and I'm just like, let's go down this pathway and kick down a few doors that are yet to be unexplored. So I will mention there are a few other servitors. We probably will get people saying, "Oh, you missed out on this," but there's, a few particular mentions. There's like a Shade Servitor. So the Shade Servitor, although called a Servitor, is mildly different. It doesn't really have the organic parts, so it doesn't cook up in the sunlight. It's more of a robot, but I guess it's one of those things that the Imperium lets slide as well and says, "Oh, no, wait a second. We need this, so we'll call it a Servitor," and it's a low-functioning AI. But I can imagine that some form of humanity has been put into it. A brain, a cortex, something like that, that has allowed them to go, that's Servitor. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm still really locked in on this idea of forcibly binding a demon to a servitor. Because imagine the insanity that would be visited upon the demon, because a servitor has no emotions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the demon wants to feed on these. From what I understand of the demons of the warp, they want to feed on these things, whether it be positive emotions, negative emotions, whatever the case might be. And then it goes and has a little, like, taste of this human and goes, that tastes like cardboard.
Yeah,
Oh dear.
I'm getting nothing from this.
I've chosen the wrong buffet.
Imagine a starving demon trapped inside a servitor.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's sick. Okay. Are we done?
I think I'm servitored out. Do you know what I need? I need a servitor to tell me if I'm done.
Okay.
Beep,
What's your
boop, beep,
gang
boop,
idea?
you are done. I had a different gang idea. Initially, I was thinking about like a work crew type servitor gang idea.
Yeah.
Not as basic as that, but I was sort of toying with the idea. But I really want to go with the Vashtor inspired servitor gang idea, where it's chaos servitors, and something that I mentioned not too long ago about a warp smith basically creating servitors, and for the use of the blood god. So just sending these things, like they already give up so much of their blood in the process of becoming servitors, and then they give more, furthermore, once they're being hurled headlong into the enemy. Like, absolutely no chance they'll flee, absolutely no chance they'll lose faith. There's no infighting, there's no destruction of valuable assets just purely because they want to build a temple. These are just mobs of effectively archaeoflagellants being used to just throw at the enemy. So I could see, on Necromunda, occultists trying to use the metalworking, understanding arts that have been, given to them, passed on, or even a dark mechanicum acolyte building these archaeoflagellants, building these servitors that are designed purely for bloodletting, and it's almost like a testing ground. Go out into the go out into the wastes and just throw these bodies at the tribes, at any people out there, and just see how much they kill. And it's almost like they're just designed purely just for bloodletting, with the higher purpose being that we can bring the concept and the idea back to the warp and make millions of these. Just go to planets and raid just to capture millions of civilians and turn them all into archaeoflagellants in the service of the blood god.
Yeah.
So it's a big gang.
It's big. It's big.
It's a big gang. It's got millions. But I like that idea. Like, you could almost just get archaeoflagellants and just brand them all cornate, like, and just have herders behind them, just, like these servitor overseer type things, but they're not actually like a mechanicum, a dark mechanicum member. They're more like, I don't know, other people who've just been tapped into them and just driving them forward in frenzies. But that's gang, army sort of concept idea.
In Necromunda, you would run them as a corpse grinder cult, right? Yeah, you'd run them as a heretic, right?
Yes.
And so you'd run them with a heretic, and basically have them like tinkering with them between games, obviously, because they can give the what's the word I'm looking for? They can give the different crews, like they give them blaze, concussion, power, radphage, or shock,
Yeah,
So
perfect.
you can
That's really good.
you pick one of those servitors that's been like upgraded,
Yeah.
and that's what they get that game.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they would use Necromunda, as I say, as a testing ground. Like, just keep building them. Build these things, capture people, make them servitors, make them flagellants, and just keep making and making and making and making, and bring all of your dark knowledge back to the warp at some stage and help us build an army.
Oh, dude, that is sick. And there'd all be various stages of servitorness. Like, your leader, your butcher, would be this, like, almost prime servitor. Mm-hmm. But
Like
he
that
was,
gilded servitor I was talking about.
yes,
Yep.
but he would be, like, a member of the original, like, Cornate cult.
Yep.
That maybe him and this heretic have started this process, and the idea is he wants to be an unkillable machine in the service of corn. Yeah, that's sick. I love this.
And then, yeah, just all. I love what you're saying there, like all these variations of the level that they're at, and so, there would it'd almost be like a rough job on some of them. Just like we're gonna bolt this onto you, and you can just still see the ragged flesh around the connection to the weapon or something like that. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I love that.
I really like that. Anyway, what's your gang idea, sir?
Okay, so it's a corn cult, right?
Perfect. I love this. I'm onto this.
I'm actually going the same sort of body horror style as you, but I'm going a little bit different. I would build a gang based around a clade of servitors that, due to a programming error or some sort of scrap code, the lobotomization that had been given to them has almost been stopped. And so bit by bit, they're gaining back their former memories. So they know they're not just these construction servitors or hollow servitors or what was the other one we had before? The breacher servitor. They realize that's not what they are anymore. They were people. And there's a song by American Head Charge called "Just So You Know," and
I've never heard of this, but go on.
yeah, there's a line in the song. It goes, "I wish your body was not so warm to me," and in my mind, these servitors would be wanting to remove the robotic pieces of themselves and reattach human components. So
Right.
what they'd be doing is they'd be hunting people in this Underhive, and they'd capture them. They'd take them back to the sort of Dr. Satan style lab that was hidden underneath, and they'd be, they'd take, Nathbot, and they'd remove his robotic arm, and then they would take this person they've captured and they'd cut off their arm and they'd attach the mechanical arm to Nathbot, and hopefully it takes. And they're trying to reattach the muscular tissue and the nerves and the veins and arteries and stuff. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it only works for a little while, then the body starts to reject it. But these servitors would be attempting to Frankenstein themselves back into people.
I was about to say, this sounds like the gang leader should be Frank N. Stein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank Nigel Stein.
Frank Nigel Stein.
But yeah, I don't know why. I just had this idea of, like, when you were talking about these Cornate guys wanting to go and create more servitors, my mind went the opposite way, where
Servitors wanting to become human
again. But it's kind of like the Borg when they try and get rid of their implants. But in doing this, they're damaging themselves more, so they then have to roboticize themselves more to keep
survive
them going,
a bit longer.
to get the proper body parts back. And obviously it's never going to work, because unless you're an orc, you can't just take off someone's arm and staple it to yourself and expect it to work.
Not with that attitude, no.
Not with that attitude.
So
But yeah,
this gang idea is less of a gang idea and more of an absolute horrific horror tale.
yeah.
Like imagine being cornered and trapped by members of this gang, and you're like, okay, well, this is it. You've got me. All right, I'm going to shoot my way out of here. I'll kill as many of you as I can before you kill me. Oh, we're not going to kill you. Sorry, come again?
Yeah,
No. We need bits.
We need bits.
Yeah. That's like the movie Jeepers Creepers, where
Oh my god, Jeepers, creepers. Where'd you get
them
peepers?
peepers?
Oh my god.
Yeah, it has that same vibe to me of like, this is your gang is all just out there, just like in the shadows, like they're almost stalking in the shadows. They're mechanical, half mechanical beings that are not built for stealth, but still somehow manage to fade into the black.
Yeah.
Still somehow just, you don't notice them. You hear a buzzing and a whirring and the odd mechanical sound, but you put it down to your local manufactorum nearby, or a garbage disposal unit or something like that, and you hear a scraping and you're like, well, it's the Underhive. There's scraping all over the place, and then suddenly you just feel the presence of things around you, and it's malicious intent that surrounds you. And by that stage, it's too late, because when they lock onto you, they're not locking onto you with the normal human strength. This is this augmented, mechanical aided strength that just, it's like a vice. It locks you, and there's no struggling, there's no moving. You can try all you want, but unless you're willing to tear off one of your limbs, which they won't allow you to do anyway because you'll damage it, there's no getting free. This is horrific. This is your worst gang idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's basically Servitors plus Dark Elder plus just...
Yes.
Just
like Doctor Who episodes. This reminds me a lot of some Doctor Who
I
episodes.
still haven't watched Doctor Who.
You would like it. You would like it, especially the sort of the early 2000s stuff. I think is right up your alley. But yeah, this is a horror story as a gang, and I think you would paint them with this dark, morbid look to them. Whereas they know. I think they would be understanding of how dire their situation is, but they would still attempt to push on, still attempt to drive themselves forward, in the hope of clinging to that tiny little bit of humanity that's left. And then my arcoflagellants would pounce on them, kill them all, blood for the blood god. Yeah. Gotcha.
And then the Imperium would just exterminate us the whole planet.
Excuse me, they would use my idea. They'd be like, that's a genius idea. Dark Mechanicum, come back into the fold. You guys are clever. Yeah, so for any of those still listening, after not having cried into your speaker or whatever you're listening through from Sam's horrific gang idea, you've reached the end. Welcome.
Yeah, that's it done. So yeah, that was the absolute worst thing about 40k. Servitors, and the fact that so many of them are not slugs, but are in fact real people.
Slugs, but not the cherubs. The cherubs,
not the cherubs. Slugs. Thank you, Nathan.
Are all slugs. Yes,
that's why I let me be your best friend. And okay, I'm not going to do closing thoughts because you get angry at me when I ask you that. But how about we shut this bit? I'm going to give you an option for the quote for the end of the episode.
Yes.
You can have the positive one or the negative one.
Because you're a low-down SOB, I'm going to pick the positive one, but I know what you're going to do.
No, I'm going to give you the positive one.
Oh, look at you go.
Gotta love a lugger. The whole gang on their backs nursing bullet wounds, and that thing just kept on throwing explosive rounds downrange. Damn mindless brute saved our lives that day, and it wasn't the first time. It was Tom Jackknife of the Iron Eights of House Orlok, talking about his gangs, Orlok, Lugger, Cargo Servitor.
Wait, is that not the negative one you're talking about, Orloks?
All right, so that's the end. International Fight Tour starts next month. And, yeah, Elusive Badger, I'm coming for you, buddy. Or maybe I'm not. Ooh.
Get him.
Get him.
Get him.
All right.
See
Bye,
yous.
Scummers. And that was our latest episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. I am Spamuel, and on behalf of the Lorekeeper team, thank you for listening. Please follow us on our social media pages available on the show notes, and don't forget to follow and review us on your preferred podcast platform. As always, if you have questions, complaints, corrections, or if you're interested in purchasing one of the new Tesla Servitor models, please reach out to us at underhivelorekeepers@gmail.com. Thanks. Don't buy a Tesla.